think the UK Fruit Fest channel is maybe not big enough to have a live aspect to it. I don't know if YouTube's got restrictions to doing things for the size of particular channels, but we're going to be live all on YouTube right now on my channel, Fruity Ronster. Yes. Okay, good. That's happening. That's working. Is Chris around? Chris messaged me. Sorry for the delay. I'm seeing you and I'm signed in. Okay, let's get that stopped. Okay, hello everyone on YouTube. We're just about to have Chris join us. And just to let everyone know, we have been drawing some prizes for the UK Fruit Fest today. And we have a bunch of winners. So if you are a winner, I'm going to let your name. So Chris is on here somewhere. There you are, Chris. Chris, give me 1 second. I'll just let people know about some of the winners today. The main prize, the free ticket, and the 2 tickets went to Brandy Kibalka. Well done, Brandy. Then there was 2 camping ticket winners, Andrew Harris and Moira Thompson. There was 3 half-price camping tickets, Alwyn Denby, Daphne Brown, Sydney Mendel. We still have a bunch of prizes left, and maybe Chris can help draw some of those prizes in a moment. If you've got questions for Chris, start asking them to the side. We're going to get him on right now. Promote. I'm going to promote him to a panelist. This might make him come on right away. Sometimes you have to add a little bit more than that. Oh, there you go. So what I would ask you, Chris, can you see something that is telling you that you're on? If you go over to the left-hand side.
Oh,
there you go.
I got it.
That was the unmute button. Excellent.
Yep. How's it going, guys? How you doing, Ronnie?
Really good. Really good. So let me introduce Chris to everyone, and I'm sure a lot of you know who he is already. And but for the purpose of doing this properly, Chris Kendall, registered holistic nutritionist, raw vegan chef, raw vegan coach, over 15 years experience, raw vegan, 100% raw vegan specialist, skateboarder.
Yeah.
Very accomplished skateboarder as well, but someone that's really been really deep in this community for a long time. A friend of all the pioneers, of all the well-known chefs and different people, and someone that's been to all the festivals, been around to everything. You run your own retreats, does a little bit of everything. And I don't know if there's any question that Chris can't answer. So if you've got questions about the lifestyle, about different things, feel free to leave them on the right-hand side or ask in the Q&A below. Chris, how are you feeling? How are you doing? I know that you've had a tough year or so recovering from an accident, but how are you doing now?
I'm doing really great, man. And, truthfully, although it has been a pretty intensively rehabilitative kind of year, it's been awesome. I've been really intrigued and blessed by the power of raw foods and holistic health. And, it only is reaffirming more and more and more as I grow in this journey. And, I've learned a lot of lessons this year. And this morning, I'm feeling really good. Right now in Canada, it's 9 a.m. I woke up at 7 and just kind of putted around, did a bunch of stuff and got ready for this. So I'm feeling great, man. Getting excited to be coming out there.
Yeah, we're really glad to have you. And the question, I guess, we've asked Melissa a number of questions about the diet and about the lifestyle and everything, but
hey, there's Melissa.
Yeah, we'll probably try and ask you a few different things and see if we can cover some more things for some of the people here. Let's start with a simple thing. What's your kind of daily regime, your daily diet? How do you make this work for you?
Well, I do want to say that, over the years it has changed a little bit, and not necessarily in what I eat so much. Maybe I make a couple more recipes these days than when I first started. But what has changed for me over the years is meal size and meal frequency. So, nowadays, like you said, I've been doing this for 15 years. I generally eat 2 really large meals. Someone freshly new coming to the lifestyle, these size of meals I eat wouldn't really be digestively comfortable, nor would it really work super well. But for me, it works super good because I've been doing it for a long time. Because to me, I can honestly say if I sit down to a meal, I'm going to be eating between 3 to 6 pounds of food, pretty much minimum. If I'm sitting down to eating bananas, to me, less than 12 bananas is a small snack. Like it feels like a small snack. Normally when I'm eating lunch, I'm looking at 18 to 20 plus bananas, and I've eaten over 28 bananas in a sitting, not because I thought I was like trying to push it or be tough, but because functionally that's what worked for me in that day, because I was working out so hard and so active the days before. My body needed that, right? So, I just want that disclaimer, because sometimes people get freaked out and they're new to the diet or lifestyle and think, oh crap, I got to eat that much. And they force themselves to eat it, and they do so much that they actually overburden their digestive system or burn themselves out. I've met people who forced bananas down and hated them afterwards. And I've just really trying to put forward is that over the years, I've really worked on eating as much as I can, between as much as I can, as much as I want, and growing with my digestive capacity. And what's happened is when I first started, 6 bananas felt like a great meal. More than that felt like I was forcing it. But as the years went on, more and more and more felt appropriate. So I usually eat 2 huge meals. Generally, the first one is a big sweet meal. Lately, I've been making a lot of green smoothies. So what that might look like is, like 18 bananas and a half to 3/4 of a pound of any greens. It's been arugula, it's been lettuce, it's been celery, it's been dandelions from my backyard where I know they're not sprayed. And then for dinner, lately I've been eating a lot of mangoes, and there's tons of varieties of mangoes. It's kind of mango season in a few different countries right now. So I've been eating a bunch of mangoes, and then either a giant salad or a curry or whatever else. I kind of feel like a stew. I like stews a lot. And it's usually just basically like a fruit-centered breakfast, a lunch kind of thing, and then more fruit, and then lots of veggies for dinner.
Well, that's pretty amazing, actually. And 18 to 20 bananas, is that one at a time? Is it usually a smoothie? How do you do that best?
It's funny. The better the quality of the food, I'd rather have it like just whole, just eat it. Like, for example, there's certain mangoes that I have, because right now I have Kaiser mangoes, I have Hayden mangoes, I have Atulfo mangoes, and I've been having a little bit of the Alfonso mangoes, and I'm waiting for the honey mangoes. And for example, the Kaisers, the honey mangoes, I pretty much won't use in a recipe. I'll just eat them because they're just that good. Like I can't improve upon them. But bananas, that's another one. Cavendish bananas, I'll eat them normal when they're really good quality. But if they're general quality, I always prefer to smoothie them. I always prefer to blend them. And on the other side, it's funny, like when I'm in Hawaii or other tropical places, Costa Rica, when I can find apple bananas, which are my all-time favorite, either the apple or the silk fig, when I find those bananas, I do not blend them. I won't. And in fact, I don't enjoy blending those ones. They just taste so damn good eating that way. And those guys, they're funny. They're small. So I've eaten like 36 of those for a meal. But the Cavendish, 18 generally is just blended with little to no water. And then I love to add greens, and if I want to, barley grass powder too. But that's basically what I do for lunch and how I eat bananas.
Can you fit 18 into one blender?
That's truthfully exactly it. It's like 18 medium, 13 to 15 large, and up to 23 small bananas. Fits perfectly into a 2-liter Vitamix jug. And usually when I'm blending it, the bananas are actually coming out the top, but then it goes down and is perfect. And there is the odd occasion when, let's say I've been skateboarding a lot, or I've been at the gym a lot, which I have been recently, getting super jacked for the festival, get my bikini body on. When I'm really, really active, there are times where I drink the full 2 liters of 18 bananas. I finish and I actually feel like I haven't eaten that much. So I have another 6, and that's when I have 24 bananas. And it just depends upon my energy needs. And I just follow my actual true hunger and satiation.
Amazing. And you've worked with a lot of people. How do you get a lot of resistance when you tell people that they need to eat more to do this lifestyle? Does it take quite a long time for people to get used to it? Like what's the kind of time frame for
it can be tricky sometimes, and I generally, I really like to, if I ever say need, or I try never to say have to, but if I say need, I say in relation to something. So like, in order to have great success and not be hungry, you really need to get enough calories, right? Rather than like, you need to eat bananas. It's like, you know what, truthfully, you actually don't need to eat bananas. If you don't enjoy them, I would say focus on the fruit you enjoy the most, but understand that caloric density comes in. And if you want to be just like surviving and thriving and gaining weight, if you want to gain healthful muscle mass, you need to get appropriate calories.
Yeah.
And it's going to be hard to do that from, say, watermelon, unless you really want to just chill out and eat watermelon all day and be a watermelon grazer, you know? So I like to kind of phrase it in that way. And I do find typically, and this is just typically and generally, that sometimes women have a little bit harder time than men with this, just because, you know, there is the social conditioning of like, oh, you don't want to eat too much and you got to be thin, and people are afraid. They're typically a little bit more afraid. Whereas men, you know, they don't mind packing on, and they're used to maybe overeating general food. So it's easier to eat large quantities of, you know, appropriate quantities of fresh fruits and vegetables. But, you know, to answer your question, usually what I find is that the magic number is around 2 weeks, give or take a week, that if people don't really get it and start eating appropriate quantities, they fall off. And I always say that it's like, you know, around the 2 week mark, you're generally either going to fall off or you're going to eat 1.5 to 2 times the quantity you were eating in that first week or two, you know? So it's, that's the time. And it's like, it's amazing when you finally get it, when people actually go, you know what, I can literally eat all I care for, the diet of abundance, eat until I'm like so satisfied, I want to push it away. You know, I have a 6-pack abs, and I'm not saying that to show off. I'm saying that because I have a 6-pack abs, and I literally, every single meal I eat until I'm like, oh, like, and I want to push it away. And I don't think there is any other diet that you can do that. And that's what it really takes for long-term success, especially if you want to be gaining muscle mass and you want to be like fit and active on the diet.
And when you've been a very experienced raw vegan coach, helping a lot of people go raw.
Yeah.
And when you are doing that, what is the start of the process? Are you trying to firstly work out where the person is and where they would be happy to be, or what's the general process you go through for helping people to transition?
Oh, that's a great question. And, you know, I mean, I have a form that I get people to fill out, and I won't work with them unless they fill it out. And that has some previous history, because I want to know not only where they want to go, but where they're coming from, right? Because that does make a difference. From there, really, once I have that form and I have the things that I feel that I want to hone in on and clear up, because that's the purpose of the form, is to really look at weak links and also look at what their strengths are and look at where they want to go. I ask what's really alive with them in the moment. Like, what are they specifically thinking about, wanting to know more about? And we start there, you know? And it is amazing, man. Like I have coached hundreds, if not near 1,000 people over the last decade. And it can really range from food and nutrient related to emotions, to family situations, to social situations, to like stress, to sleep, lifestyle. You know, I'm trained in holistics. So I like to consider that food is a pretty major spoke on the wheel, but in some cases, it's not even the thing that's necessary to talk about, you know? So it is personalized, and it really depends on the individual and their past and what their future aims and goals are.
And do you go through a process of like working out how many calories a person needs and trying to design a diet for them, or what exactly does it work?
You know, it really depends on the person, because, you know, some people, it's really simplified with that, and it can be as simple as just, you know, every meal, eat between as much as you want, as much as you can, erroring on an extra piece or two, rather than, oh, I could have another, but I don't need it, right? And other people, you know, it depends, like, you know, what personality type someone is, if they have a history of eating disorders or anything like that. And if they have a history in such a way, then sometimes it's really beneficial to really get a ballpark and to use a thing like Chronometer, a free app, to really kind of hone in for a period of time in order to really know what you need and the caloric density of certain foods. Because sometimes people might think like, man, I'm just eating so much. But when they look at it, they go, oh, wow, there's only like 500 calories and I'm used to 800 calories per meal. And, you know, like I feel pretty nourished because this food is so nourishing, but I'm, you know, feeling like eating fat at the end of the day, or like eating cooked food at the end of the day, right? So it's personalized for sure. I do generally find, regardless of their personality type, that it is useful to just have a ballpark and to even play with Chronometer just for a few days, just to kind of check it out, right?
Yeah.
But some people, it seems that is way more helpful for, and other people, it is pretty intuitive, and it's just like, okay, I'm just going to eat the foods I love and eat them until I'm totally full, and go from there.
Excellent. So there's basically different ways of approaching it, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I always like to say, to your own self, be true. And it just depends on your personality type. And, if you have a hard time eating lots of food or if it's really a joy for you, because some people just have some mental barriers to break to get to a place where they feel comfortable and okay eating huge amounts of food. And other people, it's just like, this is awesome. And that's all they want to do. And for them, it's a breeze, right? So, I mean, I was in that camp, man. Before I got into raw food, I would eat like, an extra large pizza to myself. And like, I was always used to eating large quantities of food. But even then, it took me a while to understand caloric density because I would eat a huge amount of juicy fruit and I was still losing weight and losing weight. And once I understood, okay, it's important to eat some really calorie dense food, at least one meal a day. So I get a large amount of calories in one meal and it makes it easier to meet my caloric needs, especially if you're active. I mean, I sometimes am active 6 hours a day. So, I can burn anywhere from 2,000 to like 6,000 calories in a day. So I've had a 64 banana day and it was appropriate for that day, so it takes a while to understand and learn that. And it's totally personalized, dependent upon your individual needs.
So some people would think that because you're in Canada, that it would be harder to do the diet in a place like Canada. I guess people just imagine Canada's like a really cold place, but not all the time. But what do you think about how do you address that challenge of people worried about cold and stuff like that?
Well, my good friend, your good friend, Ted Carr and we came up together and created a book, the Raw Food Winter Survival Guide. So everyone can just go directly to my site and purchase that.
Yeah.
I'm just joking. I mean, we did write that, but I'm going to share here, of course. It's funny because there are certain things that you can do to make it a lot easier on yourself in the winter. And some of them include just eating enough calories. We generally need another 100 or 200 calories at least in the winter to produce extra thermal heat and just to be, to be getting enough because it takes more energy from your body to stay warm if you're in a cold environment.
Yeah.
Beyond that, of course, if your house is warm enough, if you're wearing warm enough foods, then that doesn't necessarily need to be an issue. And what I really find is that what you're thinking about and what you're worrying about becomes a much bigger deal than it actually is. And in the beginning stages, a lot of people have trouble with the winter because they're missing the summer. They're thinking they need to be in the tropics. They feel down and they hyper focus on food. And, what I've found is in the beginning, I actually, did have a harder time with winter. But as years went on, it got easier and easier. And now I'm very, very honestly at the point where dietary wise, it's no harder for me to be here or in the tropics at any time of year. It feels the same. It's just, this is what I eat and I eat appropriately. I eat enough. And if I'm cold, I dress warmer. I do more exercise. I build up that heat that way. And I recognize too that there's certain months of the year and certain places that I go that the food isn't quite as good. And I just don't overthink it. I don't worry about it. I just do the best I can and focus on the other aspects of health and realize that this is just a huge opportunity to shift my focus and work on those other links, right? So it really truly isn't any harder for me, but I do understand for a lot of people it is. And it does sometimes take that shift of focus and otherwise really lining up all the other lifestyle aspects and focusing on other things in order to thrive and feel really good and be growing through such an experience rather than feel pushed down from such an experience.
Amazing. And we've got a question from Amelia. The question is, what % fat do you personally eat, Chris Kendall?
Yeah, it's funny because it has fluctuated over the years. And like I've had times and years where I was like, between 5 to 8%, like really, really low fat. And I've had times where I was between 8 and 20%, and I would say on the long term, over the whole year, I'm probably between 8 and 12, 15%. That's generally where I float at.
Yeah. So excellent. Thank you. Any other questions people can ask on the right hand side? What about your vegetable meals? You talked about your bananas, but how big are your vegetable meals? Can you maybe give us some recipes? Maybe some people want to make something
For
fun
sure.
tonight.
Absolutely. You know, one of my absolute favorite meals ever, and one of the reasons why is it's kind of a one pot meal. Like I might start with some fruit first, but because of the nature of this meal, I don't really feel like I need to necessarily, is a big stew. So what I'll do for a big stew is I'll take relatively equal portions of tomatoes and mangoes. And for me, that's generally at least a pound to a pound and a half of each. And then I'll cut up half the tomatoes, or actually, sorry, rather, I'll cut up about 2/3 of the tomatoes into a large dice and throw those in a bowl. And then I'll blend the tomato with the rest of the mango into a sauce. Then I'll take equal portion of bok choy to the tomatoes. And, you know, I'm going to say this in a different way. It'll be a lot easier. I cube up equal portions of tomato, bok choy stem, and zucchini. So it's like a bowl of zucchini, bok choy stem, and tomato. And then I blend a sauce predominantly of mango, but it can be equal mango and tomato. And into that sauce, once that's smooth, I pulse blend in all of the greens from the bok choy and a whole bunch of cilantro or two. And sometimes I put some green onions in it. Sometimes I put some hot pepper in it, but I just pulse blend it so it's still chunky. And then I pour that over top of the cubed veggies, and it's just a big chunky stew. And that way, I mean, I'm getting bok choy, I'm getting the cilantro, I'm getting lots of tomatoes and zucchini. Sometimes I even add in more greens, like add in like a whole bunch of say arugula or spinach or whatever. I can get over a pound of greens in this way easily. Sometimes I can get up to 2 pounds. And, you know, I'll admit, like I said, I eat large quantities. Sometimes I'd even say I overeat because I enjoy the food so much that I actually eat a little more than I need. But the fun thing is the biggest issue I could ever have from that is maybe a fart or two. You know, it doesn't really bother me so much. So it's like, it's whatever. But my stews can be like 3 to 6 pounds, you know, and I'd say probably the average one is about 4 pounds. It's like a very large bowl that if I brought it somewhere, most people would think it's for a family of 6, you know, so.
Yeah.
And I like it that way a lot, man. I like, I like salads, but oftentimes I like partially blended salads, and I don't like them blended smooth for some reason. I like them blended just enough so that they're kind of chunky and the greens are already broken down and they're all kind of mixed together. And it just ends up being, instead of like this big, it ends up being that big and more condensed flavors. And I just really, really enjoy that. Oh, thanks, Helen.
Yeah, you've been a chef at a lot of big events, and what tips do you have for people like who might want to put on an event or they're running things, and just for the ordering food and making recipes and stuff? What's been your experience with doing that? What did you learn from that experience?
It's wild, man. Yeah, I was just thinking about that today. I've chefed definitely over a dozen festivals and probably near 20 retreats and events, and the first one I ever did was the first Woodstock festival. And I remember that one, basically, like, I didn't even know what the food order was. I wasn't told to make a menu or anything. I literally just showed up. Okay, here's 200 people. Here's a couple 1,000 pounds of produce, make stuff, and so that was a sharp learning curve to all of a sudden just be thrown in the kitchen like that. And since then, what I've really found is that, it's really beneficial, one, to really have a good understanding of your recipes and what you want to bring and have them written down. Like some people criticize it, it's kind of funny, but I really like to have my recipes written down in such a way that it has both metric and imperial systems for weights for everything. Because in certain countries, they only work in imperial, and in certain countries, they only work in metric. Yeah. And depending upon where you are, if you're ordering food for even 10 people, it's really helpful to know the proper weights, because if you're even off by like a quarter, all of a sudden you have like potentially 800 pounds extra food. If you're dealing with at the Woodstock, I'm doing a food order now and it's like 600 people, right? So it's like you're dealing with huge numbers. So it's really useful to basically have the measurements weighed out, have tried it more than a few times and played with the variations and the amounts. And then all you really have to do is just have a suitable portion size and multiply it, right? But what can get tricky is if you have multiple recipes, then you need to consider that and say, okay, well, this is how much I'd have for one serving of this, but if I have this and this, well, then you have to cut it in half, right? And it can be really tricky. I've been really blessed to have hit the numbers pretty good sometimes. And then I've had a few times where, we had an extra 60 pounds of green onions because I way over calculated the green onions, The other thing I'd say is, play with it first at home, like do it for smaller events, do it for family, do it for friends, enjoy making it. I mean, before I got to, be considered a chef, I always loved making food for myself and friends and family. And whenever I traveled, I was kind of the go-to chef that would make extra stuff. And that way you kind of get the experience of doing it. And then from there, it's just good to have your recipes all written out and pretty concise, have all the information and take some time and, recognize that it may not hit spot on, but it's an experience and you'll grow with it and make notes and grow with that.
Yeah, amazing. And I'd like to hear more about your retreats and where those are and how that works and everything, and how does that go? How do you kind of structure that? What's involved with it for people?
Well, I've done a bunch of retreats, mostly in Costa Rica. I've done some in Mexico as well. It started out because I was actually chefing other people's retreats in Costa Rica, and I met some people at a center called the Farm of Life. They're really good friends and family now, Brian and Jody Calvi. And, I've done, this year will be next year now, I think will be my 10th retreat there, 10th or 11th retreat there. And, when I first started doing it, I was the host and the chef. And that was really challenging because I felt like I didn't have enough time to connect with everyone. So I shifted it to actually hiring a chef, or the center itself has a chef, and I just give them my recipes and we confer beforehand, and they know what I expect, and I also give them some freedom of expression within their own chefing skills, especially if I know them and know what they're doing, right? Yeah. But my retreats, it's kind of funny. They're basically all the things that really light me up, all the things that have brought me a lot of joy and fun and growth in my life. So I do raw food, yoga, surf, adventure retreats. So the focus is on raw food, on adventure in a tropical climate. So we go on amazing hikes and waterfalls, and sometimes we do the trapeze, and sometimes we go to the beach. There's surfing, and that's an optional thing. Some people love to learn and other people don't want to, but otherwise we're just chilling on the beach. And yoga, I've been doing yoga for 19 plus years, almost 20. That's actually what got me into health, is yoga. And so I love to share my styles of yoga, the styles that I enjoy the most, as well as the center typically has at least one or two other yoga teachers. So you get a varied kind of yogic understanding and practice. So those are the things I do. And then, otherwise, it just gives it a lot of opportunity to dive in, like festivals, one-on-one, and to be connecting with people who've been doing it like from morning to night all day. So there's just a lot more connection and a lot more chance to really dive into what's alive in you and what's going on and the questions and concerns you have. And it's amazing, man, when you're at a retreat or a festival, just having that load off where you're not second guessing yourself. You're not worried about what other people are thinking, and no one's looking at you funny or asking questions or telling you you're a monkey or a rabbit. You're all a bunch of monkeys and rabbits, and you're all feeling good and enjoying it together, right? So that's one of the things I love about them the most, and just having that individualized connection and support. I think it makes a big difference when people actually come together and live the lifestyle for a week, or live the lifestyle for however long it is, like full on, and have full access to asking anything and being comfortable with it, feeling totally at ease and normal.
You think there's a connection between yoga and raw food in some way?
Yeah, I would say so. Because like yoga is to yoke. It's like yoking with nature is, whole, fresh, ripe, raw foods. And I would say, in general, yogis definitely live and promote a, plant-based, high vibrancy diet. There's not too many yogic books, at least older ones that are explicitly all raw food, but that definitely mention prana and mention, whole foods and mention raw foods. And there are some newer books that incorporate the two I've read, but it's definitely beneficial for yoga. And, a lot of yogis I know, that's one part that either they find to be incredibly helpful, in terms of their own practice and recovery and flexibility. Because when you're really well hydrated and eating fresh, vibrant foods, you just generally feel better and are more flexible and recover better. But there are, of course, others that don't make that connection at all. But I mean, that's one of the things. Literally, when I first got into yoga, it was mostly just for my physical, but then the mental, physical, emotional, spiritual stuff all kind of came in, and I started reading about philosophy and about karma. And I mean, that's a central theme in yoga, is karma, and eating plant-based foods rather than animal-based foods and taking on that karma. That was the first thing that actually got me interested in nutrition and vegetarianism, is the yogic point of view on that.
Yeah, I've always wondered that. And the thing, I guess there's a question I want to ask you that I think's kind of important, is that you had an accident last year and you broke your leg, I believe. And I think a lot of people would think that would worry about getting enough, calcium in this kind of diet or whatever nutrient to build bones and have a strong body and things like that. How have you felt about your recovery from your accident? Have you done anything different at all?
Well, the funny thing is, like, because I've been doing this a long time, and because I've been skateboarding for double the amount of time. So, I've been skateboarding for 33, 34 years now, and a raw food is for 15, right? And I've broken bones before raw food, and I've broken the same bones after being a raw foodist. And what I found, and even my surgeon and rehabilitation people have found, is that typically I heal in around 1/2 to 3/4 the time. So for example, I've broken this wrist 4 times. 2 of those times were before raw, and 2 of those times were after raw food. And I recover way faster, way better with raw food.
Wow.
I fractured my back over a decade ago, I think 13 years ago, 12, 13 years ago. I fractured it, and it was a compression fracture. So one of my vertebrae literally, instead of being flat like this, went, and it was a slope, and it messed me up for a long time. I got really depressed. I actually binged and cheated on the diet, because at that time I thought literally my life's over. I won't be able to skateboard. I didn't care about myself, didn't care about anything. Short-lived binge, got back on the lifestyle. And 3 years later, I got x-rays, and my bone had regrown back to normal. And the connective tissue, the cushioning between them hasn't. That's a hard thing. It's gotten maybe a little bit more hydrated, so it's better condition than it would be if I was on any other diet. But there is certain wear and tear that is harder to replace. There are certain things that we have a harder time repairing from. But in terms of bone growth, my chiropractor said he had never seen that in his career, bone just grow back like that. And my bone did,
let's describe that a bit more. I just want to understand what you're saying there. So your bone had a part of it had broken or fractured. Is that what you were saying?
It was crushed. So it was like, it's not crushed in the sense that it turned into powder, but it was a compression. They call it a compression fracture. So I fell in such a way that the bone was kind of crushed down into a slant. And it was funny. It's funny because I didn't actually know that I fractured it. It was just that, how long was it? 1.5 years afterwards of my back just being screwed. And, I was like, it just hurt a lot and was having troubles with it. I went to a chiropractor that actually helped me, and he got x-rays. He's like, did you know you fractured your back? And I was like, no, I just thought I hurt it, And the x-rays showed that it was kind of angled down like this and showed the compression line, right? Or showed the fracture line. So I truthfully don't know exactly what it looked like in the week, month, and first few months after the accident. Because for 2 months, I basically was just bent over and felt like Yoda and had to move really slow. And I just ate fruit and chilled out on the couch after that initial binge that I mentioned. And, the 1.5 years after, when I got the x-rays, it just showed that. And then it wasn't until about 3 or 4 years after that I found another chiropractor that really helped. And he ordered another set of x-rays, and we got my next x-rays, and he ordered the other previous so he could compare them. It showed the first one that was angled down, the second one that the bone was reformed or remodeled, however you want to say it. And he was just, like I said, he was like, I've never seen this before. Just keep doing what you're doing. And, I continually amaze him because, after this motorcycle accident, he's like, you should really take it easy. And, you're lending, used time or future time, being active nowadays. And, my recovery has been really good. He's really impressed. Every time I go, he's like, can't believe you're doing so well considering everything that's happened. So I definitely find through eating enough and eating, an abundance of raw foods. And what I focus when something like this has happened, I make sure I'm focusing on greens and I'm getting in more green smoothies. And, you know, the one thing that I do eat occasionally that isn't technically raw is frozen peas. You know, I really enjoy frozen peas, and they are super high in protein. I don't eat them because they're super high in protein, but I know they are. I just eat them because I love the heck out of them, and I put them in my curry and I enjoy them. But otherwise, you know, really from when I first started the diet to now, the only thing that's changed is occasionally I make a little bit more recipes. Occasionally I have some frozen peas, and otherwise I am a little bit more varied in my diet. Like I like to sprout things. Like occasionally I sprout lentils. I like to, you know, pick wild edibles. I sometimes have the barley grass juice powder. But, you know, fruits, vegetables, fruits, leafy greens are always the central part of my diet. And since the accident, I just make sure I'm getting a little more greens for the higher mineral ratio, you know. And actually one other thing, because last year the accident happened in July and I was basically bedridden and unable to go outside until it was winter very much, or at least not really be active and outside much. I started supplementing vitamin D because I wasn't outside getting the vitamin D, and vitamin D is really, really good for bone growth and healing and, you know, our hormonal function and everything. I would have preferred to be outside. Like if this would have happened in the tropics or during a time of year where I could be outside physically, that would have been my preference. But due to the factors involved, I did start supplementing vitamin D, and I stopped once the summer came. I've been outside.
So a question has come from Amelia. Chris, did you have to take Western pharmaceuticals during your latest accident recovery? Just curious how you handled that.
Yeah, you know what I actually did, and I mean, it had been almost 20 years since I'd had like an Advil. I mean, I remember the one time I broke my wrist, I didn't get any medication at all, and then the night after, like it wasn't even hurting, and then about 8 hours after the accident, it hurt so bad, like just really hurt. And I was in Hawaii at the time, and I went to a kava bar and I tried to have like 8 cups of kava to try and like chill it out. If you don't know what kava is, it's like a root that has like kava bars in certain countries, and it's kind of got like a mild sedative, intoxicative effect, but not like booze or anything. It's like more like a chilled out vibe. And I'd never had it, but I heard it was amazing and it's good for pain relief. So I was trying to do anything I could, and that didn't work. So I ended up taking Advil at that time, and that didn't really work either. But beyond that, it had been 20 years that I'd really taken any kind of pharmaceutical or any kind of pill. And when I woke up after the accident, I mean, I had no choice. I mean, I don't even remember the accident itself. I just woke up in the hospital told that I was in a major accident and that I was, you know, like lucky to be alive. And immediately, I guess they put me on antibiotics, just injectable during the surgery. I didn't ever have to take, you know, pills for that or take rounds of antibiotics. Just during surgery, they gave me an antibiotic. And then they put me on heavy painkillers. And I was in the hospital for 10 days. And during those 10 days, I was on the painkillers. I got home and I weaned off the painkillers within one day, actually within half a day. And, you know, that was really it. But in terms of handling it, I just took it as a matter of course. I mean, I could have resisted it and I could have been in a lot of pain and I could have not gotten sleep, but I'd rather get sleep. And when I was in such a situation where, you know, not to be on them would have been causing more stress than to be on them, in my personal opinion, I just let go of it and said, okay, this is what I'm doing and this is what's going on, and I can recover from this afterwards and get back to normalcy, you know? So that's how I handled that.
Yeah, it's a good question, like how to balance these things. Do you feel like there's a lot of people that start to get a bit scared of Western medicine, and maybe that's one of the reasons that they've come to a raw diet, and that sometimes that they've kind of thrown the baby out with the bathwater a little bit?
I think for sure, 100%. I mean, and I think sometimes people demonize it, you know, and it's like, I think it's good to understand that there is a place, or at least there can be a place, you know. I mean, you take someone like Bob Marley, who resisted having a tetanus shot and died, you know. It's like, if he would have taken that, he could have been around and still singing, you know.
I never knew that. I never knew that story.
Yeah, no, like stuff like that happens in people who have strict philosophies, and rather than, you know, living in the now with, the current kind of things, and just having a little bit of flexibility. I would rather be around and doing what I'm doing and be flexible rather than stick to a philosophy that demonizes something and possibly die, right? Like, and that's the truth with Bob Marley. But for me, stress isn't something that's worth it. It wasn't something that I could have prevented, at least in the beginning stages. Like I said, I woke up and I was on heavy drugs because, I just was going 65 kilometers per hour and got hit by a half-ton truck. And my leg was mutilated. That's what the doctor report said. It was mutilated and twisted over sideways, and my knee wrecked up, and like I was screwed, and that stuff helped save my life. If this would have been, even 50 years ago, I would probably be in a lot worse shape than I am, and my leg maybe wouldn't work properly, and I could have bled out and died. But I count myself very lucky that we have the medical interventions that we do have nowadays, especially in emergency situations. But when it comes to health and healing, that's not what I focus on. And I wanted to get off those things as soon as possible. I mean, in the first week in the hospital, if I wasn't taking those medications every 6 hours or 4 to 6 hours, I'd start to be in intense pain that would keep me up and cause, so much more stress running through my system. And absolutely, someone could argue that it would have been better to fast and immediately get off the medication on day 2. But yeah, that's not what I did. I have no misgivings about it. I'm not going to second guess it. I don't worry about it. That's long since passed, and I live healthfully 99.99% of the time without any type of medical intervention. And, my body can heal and recover from that. So I think it has its time and place, or at least it can, and that it can be very much of benefit to have flexibility in philosophy and not just be stuck into dogma that says everything, medical is wrong and bad, which some people can think can get trapped in.
So we've not got too much time left. I think we've gone through a lot of stuff, but one thing I'd like to ask you about is we've known a number of people who have been on this lifestyle and have maybe not been on the lifestyle sometimes, or have went back to a vegan diet or whatever they were doing. We don't really know. And some of them have been people who were at the Woodstock Fruit Festival. Some were even teaching at these festivals and the Canada Festival and things like that. And some of them have now completely done a U-turn, and they're eating, we don't really know what, but they're not vegan anymore and things like that. What do you think about that situation, and why are some people making these changes? Any thoughts?
I mean, I feel like it'd be remiss for me to make any judgments or, value judgments, or, to even say that I know for sure, because I haven't done personal histories on all of them. Some of the people I know fairly well, but not necessarily in terms of knowing what they do on a day-to-day and the things outside of diet and, why they came to that. I've seen some headlines on some YouTube videos. I think I've watched maybe 1 or 2 of them months ago when some of that stuff first came out. But I can't say that I know 100% for sure. What I do know is that every single person that I've ever met who has had troubles on a raw food or vegan diet, once they've gotten, adequate tests and the coaching and or help from someone who's really qualified and has had long-term advice and support, that they've been able to recorrect those. So, I mean, I haven't seen an issue where someone has to eat animal products, but I've seen people who have chosen to eat animal products rather than to take the full route and figure out how they can accomplish the same results on a vegan diet. So, I mean, there's so much more to diet or to lifestyle than diet, right? And I mean, people can have trouble on any diet and people can have trouble on any lifestyle, but there are also ways to figure it out. I mean, one way that I kind of look at it is with yoga, for example. I mean, I know so many yogis. I know tons of people who do yoga, and I know people who have hurt themselves doing yoga. Does that mean yoga is bad and that it doesn't work? No, it just means that the person possibly was pushing themselves in a way that wasn't really helpful, or didn't have the proper instruction or guidance, or was in a rush to get somewhere, or was doing it for the wrong reasons, And I mean, again, I'm not saying that that's the case with any one individual, but I've seen that with raw food. I've seen that with yoga. I've seen that with skateboarding. There are ways to make it work, and there are ways that make it a lot harder for it to work. And I think it's important to consider everything. I mean, commonalities that I've seen in some of those are like fanaticism with fasting or fanaticism with juicing or purity. And that's something that I do sometimes see in the raw food lifestyle, is like people get too hung up on, trying to eat less, or, eat way too, like eat just fruit all the time, pure fruitarianism, which sure, it can work. But again, it's the exception, not the normalcy. Right. So I think that, consistency, consistently eating enough and looking at lifestyle just as important as diet is the key to success with raw food, and having good guidance and support if you're having troubles, because there are people out there who do blood tests and who have decades of experience doing that kind of thing, and can really help make sure that what you're doing is sound, not just for right now, but for long term.
Yeah. Have you been coaching anyone recently that's experimented with some of these, like eating meat and things like that? Or
over the last decade of coaching, I've definitely coached people who have been, started off eating meat and then went to raw food, and then went back eating meat, and then went back to raw food. And I mean, typically what I see in the longer term is people come around and end up coming back to raw food because it works the best, but just finding their balance. And whether that balance means that they're, including some cooked foods, or whether that balance means that they include some supplements, or whether that balance means that they just restructure their diet and lifestyle, or whether that balance means that they're not so hyper focused on diet being cure all for everything, and they really understand that it's a lifestyle, and they let go of worry and concern and preoccupation with individual nutrients. It can be a mix of any of those, right? But that's typically what I have seen, is that most people end up coming back to raw foods, if not 100% raw foods or 100% vegan, that the absolute vast majority of their diet comes back to being, whole, fresh, ripe fruits and vegetables. So.
And let's talk about I'd like to know about some of the events that you've been to in the past, some of the things that you went to that made you go along this health journey, going back to like some of the first, maybe like festivals you went to and raw food events and gatherings. Can you tell us a little bit about your history of going to some of these events?
Sure, absolutely. Well, like my first 5 years raw, I pretty much didn't go to any events, and I didn't really see anyone. I met like a handful of raw foodists in that time. It was a little bit of a different time. There wasn't people on YouTube doing raw food. There was, I guess, some events, but none that I was aware of. And they were pretty sporadic and spaced out. I think there was a lull of about 3 to 5 years from major fruit-based events. I think there were some vegan events that raw foodists went to, but I think there was like Raw Stock was one of the older ones that was before my time. And then I think there was kind of a lull between. And the next big festival, and the first one I ever went to, was the first Woodstock Fruit Festival, which I mentioned. Yulia, one of the heads there, I'd coached her in the past, and she reached out to me and was like, "Hey, do you want to be a part of this?" And invited me to be a speaker, chef, as well as a yoga teacher. And, that's now, like I said, like nearing a decade ago. And that was really wild. That was a huge learning curve, because I hadn't done any of those things. And, I didn't get into health and nutrition to do it as a living. In fact, I just wanted to do it to skateboard. My biggest nightmare ever was to be on stage talking. Like when I was in high school, like if I was the kid at school that paid attention and knew the answers, like I didn't need to study ever. I think I studied like 3 hours in my high school career, but I had like a 78 and 80 something % average. And I'm only saying that because I paid attention and I knew the answers to things. But if the teacher said, "Hey, Chris, like stand up and tell us the answer to this question," I turn beet red and want to cry, but raw food was so profound in my life, and I learned so much that I can't help but answer the call of service. And over the years of festivals, I've grown in that. And I started the Woodstock one. I've done that every single year, except for last year because of the motorcycle accident. It was like, within a month of the festival. I remember actually I woke up in the hospital and I was like, do I need to stay overnight? Like, and they're like, "Yeah, you're going to be here for a while." And I'm like, do you think I'll be good to go to the festival in 2 weeks? Because I was supposed to go to the Canada Festival and then the Woodstock Festival. And, so I ended up being in the hospital until around the first festival, and I couldn't imagine moving afterwards. But, so I done Woodstock, I think or 10 festivals, including the Hawaii year that they went there. I've done the Denmark or the Fresh Food Festival 4 times. I was the head chef every time I was there, and speaker and a yoga teacher. I did a Slovenia festival, which was really fun. That was only one of them, unfortunately. They had a second year plan, but it didn't work. As the head chef of the first ever Croatia cruise that Jesse Bogdanovic and Happy Raw Rennie hold and host, which was really damn fun, but very challenging, being like on a ship and a small ship kitchen and making food for like 40 people with very limited kitchen supplies and staff. That was really wild, but beautiful, man. Croatia's amazing. And then of course I've been, at the UK Fruit Fest 3 times. So, or 2 times, right? So this will be my 3rd time.
2 times.
Yeah.
And if you want to share your code, if people want to use Chris's code to get a discount, if you're going to come to the festival, I think it's banana. Is that right? Yeah,
it's just banana. Banana Commander. Banana is easy for me to remember. You can get, 10% off the festival, and what the prices go up tomorrow?
No, the prices go up tonight at 11 p.m. Yeah.
11 p.m. Yeah. So, if you didn't win the draw and you want to come because it's going to be an amazing time, you want to get the best deal possible, use that code banana. Hook a brother up. That means I get a couple more bananas and get to continue living this lifestyle and promoting my buy donation coaching and all these fun things I like to do, really appreciate it.
Well, it also means that if people are coming to the festival, they want to see more of Chris. You want Chris to be doing more classes, more lectures and things like that, then the more people obviously that are coming through Chris's code, that means that we'll have more Chris, or we'll ask Chris if he'd be happy to do more, because there's more people coming who specifically want his help and advice. So
it's kind of like it's like if you want more organic foods, you buy more organic foods. If you want more Chris, then you use Chris's code. You vote with your dollar, people.
Exactly. Yeah, if you want more Chris, you use the code banana.
Yeah.
Okay, let me open something up here. Someone says, I read that Marley died from melanoma cancer due to his skin color. He should have carried on with the cannabis oil. I thought he died of cancer as well. I'm interested in this tetanus story. I'd like to look into that.
That's what I've read the past, and I've read some documentaries and stuff like that. But
Chris, you're absolutely right, Chris. The amount of people that have done like stuff like that, where they've had some kind of problem that Western medicine could have fixed, and they decided to try and heal it naturally, and then died or became really injured or irreversible problems. It's like there's quite a lot of people out there, and there's some that we know of, and if there's some that we know of, I imagine there's way more that we've never heard of that didn't seek advice, didn't take antibiotics, didn't take a shot or whatever it was that would have dealt with the thing. And a lot of people, here's the thing that a lot of people say to me when they talk about some of these things. They say they're toxic. These things are toxic. They kill life, or they kill us. It's like, yeah, but the thing that's, whatever that thing is, it's trying to kill you, the virus or whatever, that's needs to be killed. So like you need to have some level of toxin within that to kill the thing. If it's a bacteria or a virus or whatever, like, yeah, you need some level of sacrifice there to get rid of the thing. But
to quote Star Wars, only a Sith talks in absolutes. And I think it's true. Honestly, I think it's funny to say that, but it's so easy, and people like to put things in boxes and make things black and white, good, bad, toxic, and good. And it's like I've seen just recently on some support groups, would you rather eat a sweet potato cooked or raw? And it's like, well, if it's cooked, it's toxic. And it's like, yeah, there's going to be some toxic qualities, but there is a gradient. That's the thing I think is important to recognize, that things aren't black and white. It's not like if you're a raw foodist and you have one cooked meal that you're going to die and that it's toxic and you're a bad person. no, fresh, ripe, raw fruits and vegetables are the best. Number one, simple, tender greens and fruits, they're awesome. They have the lowest levels of toxicity, but they still have some. There's still some toxic qualities to greens, right? If you eat wild edibles, there's still some toxic qualities that, cause the body to work. It's like, and that's not a bad thing, but it's just we don't want to be favoring the toxic. And the more we process, the more we cook foods, the more toxic load it has, the more work our body has to do to get less vibrant nutrition, right? So I think it's just important with that. I mean, even with the medications and stuff like that, like, yeah, there's some toxic qualities to that, but is it going to make the difference between living and dying, or getting good sleep or not getting good sleep? I mean, sleep is very important as well, right? So I think there's always a balance and a juggle, and it comes down to each person, but, in each situation. But when we get so stuck in a philosophy that we make black and white lines in the sand and can at times do so to our detriment, I think that in itself is a form of sickness. I mean, I've met people that are so stuck to hygienic philosophy that they were in a severe deficiency and wouldn't supplement and ended up having issues because of that. I've met people who, years later, they said, I wish I would have supplemented because I severely damaged myself neurologically because I had B12 deficiency that was very, very, like, I could tell I had like tingling fingers and feet, but I thought, nope, no, hygiene says don't do this, or some people say don't do this. And they got themselves into major issues. And again, there can be a time and place. And for myself, I'd rather be optimally healthy and happy and doing the things that I need and be real and alive in the current moment with what's going on, and grow from there and come back always to simplicity and health and Mother Nature, right? But our intellect is there for a reason, and we figured out some stuff that can be life-saving in emergency type situations, and it's not good, bad, right or wrong, black or white. It just is,
Excellent. Well,
Doug's on there. Yeah, Doug.
Yeah, we'll bring on Doug, promote to panelist.
Can we both be on at the same time for like 2 minutes or 5 minutes before he?
Yeah. Let's see.
Yeah, it is. And again, John's saying this, scientifically proven their microbiome is destroyed. Well, I mean, to what extent? Again, if we say it's black and white and we know for sure that it's completely, that's to me not necessarily true. It's definitely hindered. If I had the choice, I wouldn't have gotten antibiotics. But when I had surgery, it was protocol. I was knocked out. I wasn't even there. I had no option. The doctors, they do that as a given. And since then, I've done all the best things I possibly can to reflourish and feed myself foods that naturally feed the microbiome, right? So we do the best we can. And yeah, I agree that antibiotics, realistically, to me, it's a life or death thing. And I was in a life or death situation that I had no choice in, but.
Yeah, so Doug was there. He seems to have left. I think he'll be joining us again.
Okay.
He was. I think I could hear him, but his video wasn't on. So we'll just wait for him to jump back in. I'll just make sure that he's all good.
Thanks, Kyra. Thanks, John.
Let's see. I don't think he's got any problems.
I see John's asking about soil, and yeah, I totally agree. Natural farming practices, good quality composts, and focusing more on fruit trees and plants that don't necessarily rely on the topsoil. Otherwise, growing topsoil instead is the way to go. The monoculture way we farm today with lots of chemicals, it's not sustainable. You're totally right. I'd agree.
Excellent. Sorry. Give me a second.
Do you care if I just answer some questions while you're figuring that stuff out? Yeah. I mean, cannabis, John is asking, what's your thoughts on cannabis as a food and an essential nutrient? I'm aware that we have cannabinoids. I can't pronounce that word properly in our system. Our body naturally produces them. My favorite is hemp. I like hemp seeds. They're one of my favorite seeds, which is from the same plant or similar plant. I've tried, and with this injury, I've tried the CBDs and stuff like that. For me, it never really made a difference. I've met other people who it's made a huge difference. But I think that's to each their own. I don't know necessarily that it's an essential nutrient. Our body creates it ourselves, so that's the opposite of an essential nutrient. Essential nutrients are ones our body can't manufacture from other nutrients, but our body actually does have cannabinoid receptors and produces some in our body, right? So getting more, is it better or worse? I'm not an expert on that. I can't say myself. Can it have its place? Of course, I know people who juice cannabis leaves, and I know they're incredibly nutritious. There's a lot of great nutrients in there. Have I gone as far to do that myself? I haven't, but if someone really enjoys it, if it makes a big difference in their life, they love it, I think that's great.
Sorry, give me a moment.
Yeah, no worries, no worries. It's funny about Marley and dying from melanoma. Not funny, but I remember reading somewhere about tetanus and stuff like that, but I actually just looked this up as well. I'm gonna check another. Yeah. I stand corrected by the power of God.
Okay. Doug, can you hear us? Can you speak, please?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, you can hear us.
Chris.
How's it going, Doug? Good to see you, man.
It's a treat to see you vertical.
Yeah, I'm happy to be vertical again. Yeah, I think the last time we talked, I was probably laying down.
You were very horizontal, man. Forced horizontal. Hey,
yeah.
That's what it takes sometimes.
Absolutely.
Good
Absolutely.
To see you vertical.
Thank you, man. Yeah, I'm stoked to be out there in UK with you and do some workouts. I've been at the gym a lot and I've been pushing it a bit and feeling really strong and good. So
how do you like Bell helmets?
Bell helmets, they saved my life, Pretty sure it is. They don't let me use it again, but that's fine. I'm not jumping on a motorcycle really anytime soon. And
oh, no?
No, I have been on one since the accident. My mom told me that if I didn't get rid of it, then I was gone from the house, and I'm still staying with my parents right now. So sold it pretty quick, but but doing pretty damn good, man.
I can understand. Well, I'm glad you are able to talk about it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, both me and my girlfriend Camilla are super blessed. In fact, on the scene, I was choking, and if one of the just somebody who showed up before the ambulances came, if they wouldn't have turned me on my side, I would have very likely choked to death on my blood. And my girlfriend, she was thrown far enough from the motorcycle that in the first 5 minutes after the accident, people didn't even know she was there. And they only called one ambulance. And when the ambulance came to pick me up, they then discovered that she was there, and they called a second ambulance, and she came close to bleeding out. She almost needed a blood transfusion and all that stuff. So we're very lucky.
Way cool scars you can show us?
I got some pretty cool scars. They're going away pretty well. They're healing up good, but I got some cool scars, and my fibula, it didn't heal end to end. It healed side by side.
Yes, as they often do.
Yeah, so it's I got a thick leg, and it's actually very fitting because that's the leg that I have my skate zombie tattoo. That's the first skateboard I had when I was 5 years old. It has like a corpse doing a trick on a tombstone. And that's the leg that has the big scars, and it looks like a zombie leg. So it fits perfectly with my skate zombie life now.
That's just what you needed then.
It's perfect, man. It's perfect. Yeah. I don't even have to change that scar into a caterpillar with tattoos. I can just leave it as a big scar.
So if people come to the UK Fruit Fest, you're going to be letting them sign your scars or something? Have you ever seen those tattoos that hide scars?
Yeah.
So we could have a contest at the Fruit Fest. Who could design the best tattoo to hide your scar?
Yeah, that could be fun. That could be fun. I've never wanted a tattoo on my chin, but that could be fun.
You up for a contest, Ronnie?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. I mean, I'm willing to get Chris a tattoo.
It could be maybe like a snakes and ladder tattoo, or like a worm or a snake or a cat. Yeah, maybe a butterfly. Like
I don't know. It could be a tree root.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
Nice mango tree or something.
I'm down. At one point I thought I wanted a squid tattoo. It could be like a squid leg or something. Vegan ink, of course. A lot of tattoos aren't vegan.
Right.
Yeah.
No, there's some bad stuff in tattoos.
Yeah, for sure. I don't promote tattoos as health promoting.
We could get like a tattoo of you on a motorcycle.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, or going over the side of the motorcycle. You used to motorcycle, didn't you, Doug?
Sure.
Yeah.
A lot.
Has it been a while since you were on one?
A year.
Really? Oh, not that long. Yeah.
Yeah, just a year. But it's been a long time since I've dumped one.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't want to do that much. I've dumped 3 motorcycles and 1 scooter, but this is by far the worst.
I had to jump off one time. That was not fun.
You were thankful for your cat-like reflexes, hey?
I was really thankful for my helmet.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, you hit your head.
It's just bouncing as I'm rolling down the road, and it's just, and I'm going, that would be my head. Otherwise, it would just been horrible.
Yeah.
Helmet,
Yeah.
fantastic.
I think it was last spring. I was making a left-hand turn or a U-turn, and there was a lot of gravel, and my bike just spun out from under me. And I was very lucky that somehow my thumb hit the engine kill switch as it fell, because otherwise it would have been in first and just like spinning on the ground, because I was at first to make the U-turn slow. And I was lucky for my cat-like reflexes there too. I completely jumped and avoided the whole thing and didn't get pinned under it, because my bike that I got hit with was a Goldwing, like a big road touring bike, like 560 pounds with with gas in it. So that could have crushed the leg pretty easy.
Yeah, I'm not convinced, Ronnie. What do you think? I think the cat-like reflexes are what keep you from having motorcycle accidents.
It could be. Very well could be. Very well could be. I'm happy to be going back with them.
Oh, I love you. I'm really glad to see you. Look at that, with teeth and everything. You look good.
Thank you. I love you too, brother. Yeah, definitely stoked to be here and to be enjoying with everyone in UK. It's going to be awesome. I was sad to miss everyone last year.
Yeah, and you're training because it's part of your rehab, right?
Yeah, you know what? I'm fully done rehab.
Okay.
But I am still training, and it's funny because before this accident, the longest I'd ever been in a gym consecutively would be about a month, because I was just so focused on skateboarding. Right. But since then, I've been I'm now addicted to the gym, and I love it. I'm going to the gym between 5 and 6 days a week typically, and really working it and enjoying it. And for a lot of it was just like rehabilitation, not necessarily like muscle building, but
no, you got to come back. It's a long road back.
Right after the accident, within the first month, I lost 20 pounds. I was down to 165 or 160 from 180. And now I'm at 182. So I'm actually above where I was before the accident. I have a little bit lower body fat percentage and more muscle mass, and I feel stronger. And the cool thing is too, me, I've had issues with my back ever since I fractured it 12 years ago before we even met.
Stronger works to your advantage.
It does, and now it's from this accident, I'm stronger. My back is better than it was before. And I'm only going to be more and more consistent. And I'm, working my way up with my squats and deadlifts, which are just really helping with my lower back and my body balance, because 35 years skateboarding or 33 years skateboarding can bring some imbalances in my musculature, and working out specifically for balance has been really, really beneficial.
I'm all in favor. I'm all in favor.
I know this.
Okay, excellent. Well, let's thank you, Chris, for your participation today, and
absolute pleasure.
We'll get into a bit more of an interview. Doug, we'll be posting this online, so if people missed the interview with Chris, then it'll be on the YouTube channel if you go and check that out. So thank you, Chris, for joining us, and we'll see you at the festival. And if you want to see more of Chris at the festival, use his code BANANA. And in fact, Chris, did I ask you for some numbers? Probably not. Could you want to give us a few numbers, 3 numbers between 1 and I think 731?
Yes, 33, 350, and 540.
Okay, these are going to be some people that will win hoodies, t-shirts, things like that. So I'll deal with that in a moment when we get back to it. But let's
add one more number, and someone can pick, you know, any book or a shirt from my site. We'll do 2. We'll do 17 for my birthday, and what's the highest number you said?
731.
Okay, and 650. And so the 17 will be from any book, ebook or paper book that I have, and the other one will be any t-shirt on my site.
Okay, excellent. I'll be posting all these numbers, but just so I don't have to. When I say numbers, this is from the list of competition entrants. And
perfect.
Cool. Thank you very much, Chris, for your time.
Thanks a lot, guys.
And I will, let's see, how do I do this? I do it like this. There we go. Okay, well, that was excellent. Really nice to hear a lot from Chris and to see that he's doing very well. But for a lot of you who have just joined us, you're here to learn more from Dr. Doug Graham, the author of the 80-10-10 Diet, a book that has really caught fire around the world and is still kind of changed a lot of things when it came to the raw food movement, for sure, but has really influenced the world of diet in general, really, and has kind of taken on a life of its own, I guess, with a lot of people talking about being 80-10-10 that have probably never met you, or saying that they're an 80-10-10 chef, or they've written their own 80-10-10 book, and you probably have no idea who they are, but it's something that really caught on around the world. And why do you think that happened with the book all those years ago when it came out? Why was the world ready to hear that message?
Why do I think it happened? I think it happened because I did what Mark Victor Hansen told me to do. And for those of you who don't know the name Mark Victor Hansen, he was a client of mine, and he wrote a bunch of books and made his living selling those books. But eventually he wrote a book that he thought was going to be really popular, and the way he popularized it was to only sell that book when he went out on tour. He really went out on tour and talked about that book. He sold other stuff. He had his other materials, but he just focused heavily on this one book for more than a year, and gave special deals if you buy a case of them. And it was an inspirational, motivational book. When I tell you the name of the book, then you go, oh, him. No, most people don't know him by name, but they know his book by name, which is called Chicken Soup for the Soul. And people have heard of Chicken Soup for the Soul around the world, as you say, in 52 languages or something. And what he said to do is, he said, just go out on tour and promote the book. Just go out on tour and promote the book. So I went out on tour for 8 years, maybe 9 years. 5 of those years were before the book came out, and 3 or 4 more after the book came out. And I talked about the 80-10-10 concept everywhere I went. I mean, I was doing between 250 and 300 presentations a year, and I was just, certainly was not limited to the States. It was all of North America. I was in Canada, I was in Mexico, I was in the States, of course. I was in Europe. I was going to Australia. Didn't go to Asia, but I mean, I went a lot of places and did just a boatload of presentations and just kept talking about 80-10-10 until it developed. I just kept breathing life into it. By the time the book actually came out, there was a lot of people talking about it, because pretty much nobody in the raw food movement was thinking about 80-10-10. They were thinking about almonds with olive oil mixed with avocado, rolled in sesame seeds, and then maybe some cayenne to give it a flavor. And it was, in fact, whereas the Western world eats about 40% of their calories from fat, 40 to 45% of their calories from fat, on average. In the raw food movement, people were eating between 60 to 80% of their calories from fat, and just not even aware of it, and having health problems, serious health problems as a result. I mean, this whole candida issue was a high fat diet issue, and so I don't think it was about timing. I mean, the low fat message has been around since the 1950s.
Yeah.
It wasn't a new message, and it was just a matter of letting people know, and having enough science behind the concept to support the concept. I mean, it wasn't, like I said, it wasn't my idea. I was just using the science that exists in health and saying, okay, now how do we apply that to a raw food diet? So that's what I think, but maybe I don't know. Maybe it just was luck.
Yeah, well, it's a pretty good connection to know, to have a personal connection with a guy that sold the most books of almost anyone in the world. That's pretty good.
Well, I mean, he came to me with a health problem. He lectured at my chiropractic college when I was in my first year of school. That was my introduction to him. As he came to the college, and he was a motivational speaker, and he talked, and I was very impressed by him and introduced myself to him, and he was friendly. And then I saw him 2 or 3 times over those years while I was in school. And when he came to Atlanta, after school, I was practicing chiropractic in Atlanta, and he came to Atlanta to give a presentation. So I went to his presentation, and after the presentation, talked to him a little bit, and he remembered me from having introduced myself before. So we talked a little bit, and eventually I told him I had some ideas that I wanted to ask him about. Was he ever available to talk? And he said he had an open dinner date the next night. Could I meet him for dinner? And I said, yeah. And I told him where to meet me, and I'd take him out to dinner, and we could talk. So I told him a little bit about what I had in mind, which had to do with healthful living, and how to get this message of healthful living across to people. Mind you, this was 1980, 84, maybe 1985, probably 4, because by 1986 I'd moved, and we talked, and he gave his opinions, and then he said, I'd like to ask you something. And he asked me a question about his health. He was having a rather severe health problem that was threatening his career. He was looking at retirement. And I said, let me do a little homework. And I did my homework, and then told him what I thought, and gave him a presentation of what I thought would make the difference in his world. And he said, well, I'll give it a try, because he spent a lot of money, been to a lot of doctors. And this was just done over dinner for, it cost me, I paid for dinner. and he said, well, I'm willing to try it. So he tried it, and then he wrote back to me a couple of times, said it's just working absolutely perfectly. He's totally over the problem. It was like I said, it was career ending. And then from there, we stayed in touch over the years. He read my books as I wrote them and sent him copies. He endorsed a couple of my books. He went on to write the whole Chicken Soup series. So I was really glad for him that all that happened. But I mean, that's just it. You got to live a long time to have a long life. That's just how it is.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's brilliant. I've never heard that story before about Mark Victor Hansen. That's pretty cool. Let's talk about raw food. Like, what was it like back then when you were getting into it? Some of the events and the people and the way that things were happening, the way it was promoted, the books, the things that were popular. What was happening back then, and how have things changed or developed? And I want to ask this: has there always been two camps? Has there always been the kind of natural hygiene camp and another camp that's about gourmet raw and superfoods and things like that, and supplements and whatever? Has there always been those divides?
I think no. I mean, not the concepts of natural hygiene started in the mid 20th century, and developed during the middle of the 20th century, and remained quite isolated. Not many people ever heard of natural hygiene. If you ask people today what is it, they sure couldn't tell you that it's the science of human health. And they sure, a lot of people tell me what they think natural hygiene is, and I don't think it's that. So, and I'm not the be all end all, but it is something I've been studying since the early 80s. And the natural hygiene approach to diet back then wasn't even all vegan. They included lots of, I mean, the vegan concept is another one that's a relatively new concept. And so when hygiene was first coming on the scene, they were not vegan at all. They certainly weren't raw, although many of the leaders within that movement had done periods of time as vegans or periods of time on raw food. But nobody had really pulled out that 80-10-10 pattern yet. And so they, like a lot of people, failed on a raw food diet. I mean, I can tell you most of the people who were early raw fooders in the 20th century anyway, and there certainly were people before that, but none of them particularly tried an 80-10-10 approach. Some of them tried a very high-fat raw food approach and proved that that wouldn't work, not sustainable. Some of them tried the fruitarian approach, and to a lot of people, you know, if low fat is good, then no fat is better. If fruit is really good for you, and then you might as well just like only eat fruit. I've never, I don't know, I've always thought of myself as being a relatively radical guy, but I've never been tempted to go off of like jumping off of a chair and landing on the ground is really good for you. It'll strengthen your muscles, it'll strengthen your bones, like Chris was talking about. It's really good for your coordination and things like that. But I'm not going to jump off the roof of my house and think that that's better because it's a bigger jump. But in the world of nutrition, we've been sold this line of thinking that more is better. And so if lettuce is really good because it's got a bunch of stuff in it that's good for you, then iceberg lettuce isn't as good because it's got the exact same stuff, but there's more water. And so therefore it can't be as good because it's got, you know, bite for bite, it's got less of those other nutrients, but it's got more water, which is also a nutrient. So I don't understand how to say it has more. And therefore kale and cabbage and really dark green leafy stuff that's so tough that we can't even chew it as is, that must be even better because it's really packed with nutrients. Who cares if we can't access them? But in the world of nutrition, more doesn't equate with better. I mean, if you look up the term malnutrition in a dictionary, it says that malnutrition is when you have too much or too little of a nutrient. So you can just as easily have too much or be out of balance with other nutrients. And so when the raw food movement really started getting its momentum this time around, what I saw was two camps, but one was a camp that was about selling things to people, basically. It was about selling things to people. It was a way to make a living. And the way to make a living was to just tell people, as long as you eat raw food, it's okay. Here, buy my product, and you'll be fine. And then the other camp was about education. And the educators were saying, well, you need to eat fruits and vegetables. There needs to be a balance. You're not going to be able to hold on to this enthusiasm for very long. Healthfully, you'll either lose your health or you're going to start binging if your diet isn't balanced enough to be able to sustain yourself, you know, if you're not all the time happy. And sometimes it comes on sort of through the back door. You don't always notice it quietly. Next thing you know, you're like raging out of control, but it sort of slipped in slowly and you didn't see it. So I think, you know, learning the history and meeting the people who tried to be fruitarian and just plain failed, or the people who had, the high fat thing and just failed. I mean, they just showed me that those approaches really weren't gonna be valuable, and I had to look for something else. So I just went, you know me, I took a lot of nutrition as a student, and so I just went back to that. Fruits and vegetables are good for us. Let's eat fruits and vegetables. See if we can come up with some kind of ratio that defines what's acceptable ranges, and we've done that a bunch of ways. But there weren't really two camps at the beginning. There was, at least of the kinds you were describing, there was the high-fat raw diet, which is what was called, in order to not call it high-fat raw diet, because nobody's going to go for that description. I don't care. Nobody's going to go for that description. That would be like walking up to a girl in a bar and saying, "Where do you get your fat?" You're going to get slapped. Nobody wants that. But if you walked up to a girl in a bar and said, do you know anything about omega-3 fatty acids? Well, that might be an opening line, maybe, but not just fat, which is all omegas are. So there were really just two camps. There was the high-fat raw diet, which was disguised by calling it gourmet raw. And then there was me. It really was. It was just me for a long time. It was just me. But then, because what I've always done is I've taught students. So then my students started falling on the scene and becoming the leaders. And then there was me and a bunch of my students who, on their own right, were looking pretty good. And they were handling audiences, and they were gaining followings, and they were taking advantage of the media that was, I'm a woolly mammoth in that regard. I don't have a media presence to speak of, and these guys just took off with it. The times were right. So I remember going in 99, I went to California to a raw food festival in California, and it was me and everybody else, and then in 2000 and 2001, I'm going to the Portland festival, and some of my students showed up, and then in 2003 at the Portland festival there was like 21 speakers, and 17 of them had been my students. And it was like, whoa. And all of a sudden, the message started coming across as if there were two camps. There was the low-fat vegans and there was the high-fat vegans. And the high-fat vegans really didn't have much to stand on, except they tried to make it sound sexy, basically. They tried to make it sound like there was nothing they could do. I mean, most of what they promoted didn't add up. It just couldn't. I mean, it couldn't because the science and the math didn't work for them. And so they'd say things like, well, if you have a high metabolism, then you need to eat more fat. But if you have a low metabolism, then you don't. You could maybe get by on a raw food diet that's predominated by fruit, but hardly anybody has a low metabolism. Well, in fact, everybody's got the same metabolic rate. I mean, all mammals have the same metabolic rate per square inch of surface area. I mean, open any nutrition book or any sports nutrition book, they'll tell you. There isn't high and low metabolism. That doesn't exist. But if there was such a thing as high and low metabolism, it would be about how many calories you need to consume per day. And athletes need to consume more calories per day than non-athletes. And so they would say, well, yeah, Doug Graham's got a low metabolism. He can survive on just fruit because he does sports all day. You know, I'm going, well, if I'm doing sports all day, then I should have a high metabolism, not a low. I mean, it just didn't add up, but they could say it. And because when you're in the raw food camp, when you're in that high fat gourmet raw food camp, you're not really thinking it through. Because if you were, you'd be in the low fat camp. So they just wanted, you know, I hate to say this because it sounds wrong, but and I'm not better than anybody else. I've just been through this. I've been in that phase of my life where I had addictions rather than preferences. I've been in that phase of my life where I was driven by cravings, or I was really not my own man, and getting those monkeys off my back and getting to a point where preferences meant more to me, where outcome meant more to me than the instant moment, where the consequences of my actions, looking downstream, looking 5 years into the future or 10 years into the future, and going, okay, well, what do I want to look like 10 years in the future? Or what do I want to have done 10 years from now? Or those things started meaning more to me than the instant gratification of, wow, look, this is a taste hit like crazy. You know, I wasn't so concerned about the instantaneous taste hit. And then I said, but it was then that I realized, like, a mango actually gives me as much taste hit as if I super spice mango. And I don't need to super spice it. The mango itself, I can appreciate that. So our taste buds and our senses are, you know, I was not a healthy kid. I was always congested. And when I went to raw foods, vegan and raw foods, and regained my sense of smell, I don't know for sure because I've never walked in anybody else's shoes, but I think I appreciate my sense of smell more than a lot of people do. And I rely on it more than a lot of people do. And, you know, and I was, ooh, there's a fox, you know. Ooh, that rose. I get lost in roses. I really get lost in the smell of a rose. So when I started gaining that and I could cut a mango, I mean, yesterday I brought mangoes home and I hadn't cut a mango. I had just brought mangoes home, and the smell of mango so filled the house, you know, that you could be, I'm upstairs and I'm going, I can smell those mangoes. I can appreciate them. I don't need to make them into super stimulating. Right? So fortunately, our bodies are so sensitive. And I learned this when I was going through chiropractic college, because they taught us how to make our fingers more sensitive. You know, by you take a hair and you stick it under a page of a book, and then try to find the hair under the page of the book. And then when you can do that, you stick 2 sheets of paper, and 3 sheets of paper, and 4, and still can you find the hair, you know, under 10 sheets of paper and 12 sheets of paper. And it takes practice to develop the sensitivity. But it's like that. You've got the exact same thing on the guitar.
I've never heard of that, the idea of putting a
well, you don't need to. It's only chiropractors need that kind of sensitive finger.
Okay.
Right? But chiropractors need to, when I'm touching somebody, you know, they're on a chiropractic bench and I've got my hands on them, I'm feeling a lot of stuff that if you put your hands on them, you won't feel. So when I'm in the kitchen, I'm smelling things and seeing things. An experienced chef, I mean, Alicia Ojeda talks about mouthfeel. I mean, most people talk about color and texture and flavor. And then she's talking about mouthfeel. And she's talking about other aspects of the food experience that somebody who's not a chef of her quality just doesn't even know what it is, let alone able to experience different kinds of it.
Yeah.
You know, it's pretty impressive.
Absolutely. We've got a question here that Susan Shapiro's been asking, and Dr. Graham, any advice for someone who has the MTHFR gene mutation? Any ideas on that?
I have looked into this a few times, but before I would give specific health advice, even for that, which is a relatively generic question, I would want to have a full history on anybody before I was going to give actual health advice. So I don't want to frustrate you, Susan. I don't want to frustrate you in any way, but I would not give health advice. Now, I have looked into this, though, a couple of times for people, and when I've come back to it, I'm finding 80-10-10. I'm still going with 80-10-10. There are times when the best thing you can do is improve your health a bit, improve your own vitality. I mean, there's basically three factors here. We're looking at your genetics, which you can't do anything about. We're looking at your history up until this moment, your life history up until this moment, which you can't do anything about. And we're looking at your lifestyle from here out. And so, and that you can control. You can improve your lifestyle from here out in various ways. Like Chris was saying, he never went into a gym for more than a couple of days before he just gave up on it. And then now he discovered a new reason to be there. And his lifetime of back issues seems to have resolved in a couple of months of strengthening up his back. So as a raw vegan, and again, and I'm reading what's going on, it's for sure like raw vegan is part of the deal, but there are many ways to improve your health, and from the air you breathe, the water you drink, the amount of sleep you get, the exercises you choose to do, your what you think about, what you tell yourself, how you talk to yourself, the books you read, the thoughts that go into your eyes, and the sounds that go into your ears. You know, if Ronnie was a twin and lived identical life in every single way, except Ronnie just played music and made beautiful sounds with people all day long, and his other twin just used a grinding tool all day long and a jackhammer once in a while, and just heard that. All right, so just the sound that goes into your brain all day actually affects who you become. So, I mean, if you want to talk about it, I would talk to you about that in private, or maybe even on my forum. I'm happy to discuss. I hate to say what those initials look like, those words look like, so we can pronounce them some other way. But if you go onto my forum, it's a free forum. You can post that question on my forum. I will give it serious consideration and time, and be able to do the research homework to discuss your special considerations and needs.
I'd like to ask you a question, Doug. I guess it's a little bit more generic, but it's not. It's I think there's a mistake around some people have picked up an idea about you or your advice, and what someone was saying was, they were saying that Doug Graham promotes this idea that as long as you eat enough fruits and vegetables, you never have to worry about nutrition or anything else. And that they were kind of claiming that people that had followed your advice, that had some of them had maybe their health, they'd lost their health or whatever, because they'd followed this idea of, just eating fruits and vegetables and never, as long as you eat enough. And my understanding from knowing you and having watched those particular lectures was, firstly, is that wasn't really the point that you were making, that it's not a competition to try and only live on fruits and vegetables and never use anything, any other access to anything else. But I felt that the context was wrong, because I thought that what you were saying was that the people that worry about their diet are the people that eat the most fruits and vegetables, and really they should be the ones that worry the least. I thought that was basically the point, not that they should.
I remember when you heard me do that.
Right.
I remember, and I saw you get the point. So,
but here's, but that's,
first of all, let me you finish what you were saying, and then I'm happy to respond.
But some people, it's almost like they want to set themselves up as they're more responsible than you, because they aren't dogmatic like that, and they're happy to recommend supplementation or whatever it is they recommend, and other things. But I guess I would like to hear, is your opinion you just eat enough fruits and vegetables and that's it, and you never have to worry about anything else? Is that how you see it?
I've never ever suggested such a thing ever in my life, but a lot of people hear that. You know, that it's sort of interesting because what we're working with is filters. We have two issues. When I give a presentation, I'm dealing with two challenges right off the top above all the others. And one of them is filters, because everybody's got a specific life experience, and they hear what they hear of what is said based on the filters that they run in their own brain, whether they're conscious of them or not. That part doesn't matter. Whether they're conscious or not, they have these filters. And this is why different people will watch a movie, and then you ask them what the movie was about, and different people will tell you different reviews of the movie or different, analysis of the movie. They definitely get a different message, each person. So that's one issue, is the filters. And then the second is attention span, because none of us have that long of an attention span that they can pay attention without getting distracted endlessly and really zone in exactly on the stream of consciousness that the presenter is trying to get across. So you wouldn't need the presenter to be up there at all if we all thought the same stuff. But the presenter's trying to get you to understand their line of thought, and it's hopefully one that you haven't had. And so it's quite a challenge if you have a momentary lapse of attention, and then you realize you don't exactly know what's being said or what's being, the concepts going. So we're working against that before we have anything else, let alone the preconceived positions that people have and their own notions of how it should be, and when things are contradictory, they hear something that's really contradictory to what they know to be true. I've never told people what to think. I don't know if I've ever given a presentation where I haven't started with, I'm not going to tell you what to think. I'm here to get you to think about what I say, but I'm not going to tell you what conclusions to draw. You draw your own conclusions. Certainly, there are dozens of factors that influence our health and influence our nutrition beyond the food we eat. No question. And you could end up with an excess of nutrients. You could end up with a deficiency of nutrients. You could end up with an imbalance of one nutrient to another, or one nutrient group to another group. You could end up in serious nutritional trouble from a variety of factors.
think Doug's screen is just paused for a second here. We'll just wait for him to come back.
In fact, when you
Oh,
is it me?
now you're back.
Okay, I'm back.
Yep.
So when you think about the first couple of 100 people who were diagnosed, and you could probably look, I might be wrong, it might be the first couple of 1,000 of people, more likely the first few thousands of people who were diagnosed with B12 deficiencies, none of them, zero, were vegan, because vegans didn't exist yet. Right? There weren't any vegans. So it wasn't there is no food that manufactures B12. Vitamin C is known as the stress vitamin. So if you get stressed, or like we said, you get a job that's very stressful, or you're in a relationship that's stressful, or you move to someplace that's stressful, or your financial situation is stressful, or all of the above, or your four girlfriends are all saying, me or the highway, and you've got to make that decision, or whatever it is. If I'm thinking, like, if there's a nutritionist out there or a health expert out there who doesn't suggest that we eat at least some fruits and vegetables, that person would be in tremendous minority. I could almost say all the nutritionists and all the health experts recommend eating at least some fruits and vegetables, and most of them say eat a lot of fruits and vegetables. Well, I'm suggesting eat a lot of fruits and vegetables, but that's not all there is to health by any means. And if you're eating a lot of fruits and vegetables and doing what the nutritionists and the health experts say, my thought is you have less reason to worry about nutrition than people who are eating fast food 3 and 4 times a day and never eat a fruit and never eat a vegetable. Those people, like they need to get hit on the head with like something serious and notice what's going on, because they're going down a road that is not a sustainable road. Well, okay, it's choice. That's choice. But my whole point there was, I think because I eat fruits and vegetables, I have less reason to worry about my nutrition than if I was eating junk food all day long. I should be more worried about my nutrition at that point. But in fact, in terms of healthful living, I wouldn't worry anyway. I would either do something about it or not do something about it. But worrying is really bad for your health. And so I don't like to spend a lot of time worrying. I would rather spend no time worrying and more time taking care of business. I think more where people misunderstand, though, is they hear me talk about the need for supplements or the lack of need for supplements. And they just, I don't know how the message gets so twisted. To be quite honest, Ronnie, I don't know how the message gets so twisted. I've never said don't take supplements. If you need a supplement, by all means, supplement. If it becomes a life and death situation, or if it becomes a health or ill health situation, if supplements are going to make you healthier, supplement. But I'd also like to know, why did you get into that situation that caused you to require supplementation? And you go, well, I work in a bus, I'm a mechanic in a bus factory, and I breathe bus fumes all day long. And those bus fumes are extremely toxic. And I blow through my vitamin C because everybody else on the job smokes cigarettes while they're on the job. So I'm breathing the fumes and I'm breathing cigarette smoke, and it's just crushing my vitamins. So I supplement with vitamin C. Well, I don't supplement with vitamin C because I eat enough fruits and vegetables so that I get approximately 100 times the recommended level of vitamin C in my diet already, which is exactly amount that Dr. Linus Pauling recommended in 1952 when he won a Nobel Prize, saying eat about 100 times as much vitamin C as what most people eat.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm eating what Linus Pauling recommended, and he got a Nobel Prize for that. But I get told, oh no, that. So people go, well, fruits and vegetables are really good for you, but don't eat just fruits and vegetables because that's really bad. Or I don't know how many supplements there are. That would be a good question. I don't know how many supplements there are. There's a lot of them out there. But I'm not going to take them all on the chance that I might become deficient in something. If I do become deficient in something, I want to know why. But hygiene isn't about whether or not you supplement. And I did catch a little of what Chris was saying. Hygiene has nothing to do with whether or not you supplement. Hygiene has to do with removing the cause of your health problems so that hopefully you wouldn't have to supplement. But it's also about saving your life. So I would never say, somebody comes to me and they go, oh, I've got tingling in my fingers and tingling in my toes. And every time I tip my head down, I get a lightning bolt that runs down my spine. And I've been really irritable lately and I've been off balance a lot, and I'm having ropes of mucus coming out of my eyes and starting to see spots once. And somebody gives me 10 or 12 classic B12 deficiency symptoms. I mean, they've got a B12 deficiency, if it looks like a duck. So if they've got B12 deficiency symptoms, they need to remedy that, and they don't need to wait a long time.
Yeah.
But if they remedy that, then we have to look at why did that happen? How did that come into being?
Right.
What caused that? Was it just the stress? Was it something in your diet? Was it something in your lifestyle? Was it just that you had been eating a certain diet and then you changed? And when you change diet, the microbes haven't caught up yet. Because you have to understand, B12 specifically is found in a phenomenal number of foods because it's added. It's what we call enhancing the food. They supplement the food. They enrich various starchy foods with B12. A lot of breakfast cereals and pastas and whatnot. These things are enriched with B12. So pretty much if you're on a standard Western diet, you're taking a B12 supplement at every single meal. We then test those people for their B12 levels and call those levels normal. But they're supplementing 3 and 4 times a day. Back in 1986, I sat in a closed meeting with about a dozen doctors from around the world who were natural hygiene doctors. And we discussed this whole B12 thing at great length because one of the doctors had a patient whose B12 level was hovering around 100 when 200 to 700 was considered normal. Here's this girl, she's hovering around 100, and the question came up, should she supplement? Well, she had 0 B12 deficiency symptoms. Should she supplement? I listened. I was a newcomer. Excuse me one second. Come on in. I was a newcomer and a young kid fresh out of school, but I'm listening to doctors who got 30, 40, 50 years experience, and they're hashing this out back and forth about the philosophy, about the practice, about the health, about the the insurance, about, you know, the safety margin, about, is she stable at 100 for months and months or years and years at a time, or was she at 200 last month and then 100 this month, and next month she's going to be at 50, and, you know, the need for follow-up and the protocols. And I mean, this was an at-length conversation. It lasted an afternoon. So, I mean, I came out of that with what I thought was a pretty clear understanding that I can't supplement for everything all the time, that a lot of the recommended levels when we test aren't going to be the same for a raw fooder as they are for a guy eating cooked food they're not going to be the same for a vegan as they are for a non-vegan. There are many factors that are going to be identical, and then others that are going to be different. And so as a doctor, you have to learn enough to know which are which and what to do about it, and when is supplementation an appropriate protocol. Doctors put up with a lot of grief, you know, because everybody thinks they know more than the doctors. They don't appreciate what 5 years of medical school will do for you.
Mm.
There's a lot of learning to go all the way through college, and then, you know, taking pre-med courses all the way, and then go to 4 or 5 years of medical school or more if you specialize after that to learn stuff. So, you know, and it's easy for them to say, well, you know, they don't know anything. They should. Here, I know. I've been studying this for 3 months now, you know, but we just have to kind of let them do what they do. They're not under the same onus of responsibility that a doctor is under, where he has to be responsible in the way that he carries himself, in the way he says what he says and does what he does. Nobody's going to hold them accountable. So they can say pretty much whatever they want. I personally, if you don't have vitamin C if your teeth aren't falling out, you don't have obvious signs of scurvy, why would I need to supplement vitamin C? Well, there are some, maybe you bruise really easily.
Yeah.
And I go, oh, well, that's a symptom too. You need to get more vitamin C. And it's going to take a long time for that symptom to correct, because to get enough capillary fragility factor into your system so that you don't bruise so easily, I generally see that taking years, at least several years of diet modification before the body can absorb enough and rebuild capillary strength into the walls. But to just recommend supplementation off the bat, nah, I'm not going to go that direction. I've yet to see a reason for it.
Yeah, I would like to ask you a little bit. Let's go a little bit deeper into this whole idea of deficiency, because it is the thing that kind of scares people, I guess, and is a big issue. And here's a couple of things. The first thing.
So let's start out. You ask anything you want. I'm happy to talk about it. But let's start out with this understanding that according to most medical scientists, according to most doctors who specialize in health, the nutritionists, you can go in any direction with that stuff. More than 90% of all nutritional problems are problems of excess, not deficient. I understand deficiency is scary, but most of the problems that I see are problems of excess, not deficiency.
Okay. And with that understanding, here's something I don't know if I got in touch with you about this, but I came across a video, and it was made by the USDA.
Go ahead. I'm not answering.
We'll just wait for it to go.
It should be done by now.
It's a USDA public announcement type film, public service announcement. It was called The Health Fraud Hoax, and it was back in the 1960s that this was published, I guess. And it was so interesting to me because I was listening to what they were basically showing was different frauds in the health industry, and different people that would promote certain machines that they were selling, or they were telling people that these would cure their illnesses or whatever. But then he said, he was talking about, then they showed an example. This was obviously an actor that they had, but they showed an example of a particular kind of fraud, which was a man on stage that was basically saying, the food that you eat now is stripped of nutrition. The soil has been depleted, and whatever food gets made is just full of chemicals and mother nature, you know, and the food is
So
so
we're
bad.
living on nothing, basically.
Yeah, and then the answer is, you know, here's the supplements. And what was so fascinating to me was that there's a lot of people that are doing that now still. And basically that is the exact presentation that the entire supplement industry is built on. The soil is deficient, the food is deficient. There's not even point in having fruits and vegetables, basically, because it's not enough nutrition anyway. And creating these fears that have not really any basis in any kind of science that I've come across. But then people seem to buy into that very easily, that idea. It's effective in getting people to buy vitamins, supplementation, in going down those roads. So what is interesting to me is there's people that do that now or have been doing that recently that still do that, still put across that same message. And they'll say, what was funny to me was they'll say, they refer back and say, you know, back 40, 50 years ago, the food was so much better. But this film was made in the 60s and they were saying it still then. So it's the same sales pitch that's been working for many years. And it's clear that even back then, this worry about deficiency was enough to get people to invest in the idea of buying a vitamin or supplement. But what is the reality of deficiency? I mean, is it something to worry about? As far as I've seen, if you look at the history of it, you see a bunch of different diseases that happened that, as far as I can see, the problem was they didn't have fruits and vegetables. And yet people are worried about the deficiencies happening because of eating fruits and vegetables. And I guess, how about you go a bit deeper into what I've said there, and you know, just bring us some education on that and some information on that.
Okay, well, in the 30s, we had what was called the Dust Bowl, and a lot of topsoil went up in smoke, as it were, and got blown around, and people became aware that there wasn't an unlimited amount of topsoil. Fortunately, Mother Nature builds topsoil all the time, and what fruit trees and other trees do is reach down deep, grab minerals from the subsoil and from the rocks that are deep down, and bring them up into the structure of the plant, into the branches, the leaves, the fruit, the whatever, which eventually falls onto the ground and decays and builds topsoil. That's a very short version of the way it works, because actually trees don't do any of that. Microbes do almost all of that. But you know what it reminded me of, Ronnie? When I was a kid, in my first years of school, the first couple of years of school, we used to have to do this drill every so often. We didn't do fire drills, but we did nuclear bomb drills. If there's a nuclear explosion, here's what we have to do. And they trained us as students in school. In case of a nuclear explosion, what we were supposed to do was go out to the hall in an orderly fashion, and then get down into a kneeling position really close to the wall. And that was considered the safest place that we could be. There weren't a lot of people there going, well, in the case of a nuclear explosion, like, the fact that we're kneeling isn't really going to help. Okay? But there was a lot of fear about nuclear explosions. And kind of like, you know, you wear your seatbelt on an airplane when you go through bumpy air, and it certainly serves its value in that case. And you can't put it on after the fact. You've already gone 6 feet out of your seat. But in the case of an airplane going down from 40,000 feet, top spinning into the ground, wearing your seatbelt really isn't like a safety factor at that point. It's not going to really matter. So in the 50s, people started selling what were called bomb shelters. And you could get a bomb shelter in your backyard. And it was not at all uncommon for people to build in bomb shelters. Some of them were exceptionally elaborate, where you could live for a year in your bomb shelter in the case of a nuclear explosion. A lot of them you can only live a month. But you imagine going underground. And how do you find out if it's safe to come out? The whole thing was a crazy thing, but if you scare people enough, they will do really funny stuff. And if your life is living around fear, if you're worrying about deficiencies, if you're worrying about insufficiency, I mean, pretty much the entire insurance industry is based on people being sold fear. You know, they're being sold off their fear that everything's going to go wrong in the world, and oh, you better have this insurance, that insurance. Oh, you bought a washing machine, but you didn't get insurance for it. What were you thinking? Oh, I was thinking that the manufacturer was reputable and built a quality product. Why would I have to insure something that but they don't, I don't know. So for me, I just, maybe I don't fear enough stuff, but I don't run off of that fear. And I certainly don't think that healthful living is going to result in health problems. Does that mean I'm never going to have health problems? No, I'm going to have health problems. I'm going to get old and sick and die. That's a health problem. And along the way, the first 20 years of my life were spent in a pretty traditional upbringing, a lot of injuries, a lot of poor nutrition. And those are the developmental years. They set the stage for my life. So I pay the price for some of that stuff these days, and I'm sure there's more to come. Pretty much nobody tells you what it's going to be like, what life is going to be like 10 or 20 years down the road, because if you really knew, you'd probably top yourself now. No, there's health issues that are going to come. Life is a cumulative experience, and that bad shoulder, it's only going to get worse, and eventually it's going to really cramp up on you, and it's going to, someday I'm not going to be able to bench press, or whatever it is. I don't know. Supplementation was sold as if it was nutritional insurance, and it's not. It's not insurance. It doesn't insure you against having nutritional problems. It's not a safety net. It could be you supplement with B12, you throw off your ratio of B12 to 17 other B vitamins, and they work in a concert. It would be like having some man hitting a garbage can with a stick while he's up on the Philharmonic Orchestra and everybody else is playing in tune, and there's this one guy just crashing a garbage can with a stick. It just doesn't work. And so you can easily create more imbalance than you solve problems. I think supplementation it's almost irresponsible all by itself, but not quite, because it can be a lifesaver. There are people who are pretty darn fit who decide to get exceptionally fit. And if their chosen activities happen to be what we call the middle distance, not sprint, not long distance. They run 800 meters or 1,000 or even 1,500 meters, somewhere in that range. quarter mile, maybe even, but not the out sprint. Those people tend to train insanely hard in order to be competitive in the world. Insanely hard. And I have seen various people get into that kind of training and go iron deficient. I haven't seen many sprinters go iron deficient. I haven't seen long distance runners go iron deficient, but I've seen those middle distance people and other athletes doing that kind of intensity, whatever the sport might be. You know, a 2-minute, a 3-minute burst. And I've seen those people go iron deficient more than anybody else. But I've also seen that if they supplement one time, you know, for a month or for 3 months or whatever it is, enough to bring their levels back up to healthy levels, that they then never go deficient again. Never seen a person go iron deficient twice in that regard. So was it because they changed their diet? Was it because they changed the intensity? I'm not even going to try to figure it out. But while we're trying to figure it all out on the individual basis, they supplement with iron because it's not worth dying over a philosophy. To me, it's not worth dying over a philosophy. But I have had clients tell me that they would rather die than stop being vegan. And I'm not telling them that they're wrong. For them, they said they'd rather die than stop being vegan. I'd rather live. And I have not seen, the only way it would happen is somebody's holding a gun to my head, right? Because it's not a nutritional thing, but it's not going to be a health thing. Like I'd be healthier if I wasn't vegan. That's not the case. But if somebody held a gun to my head and said, here, you eat this meat or I'm going to pull the trigger, well, I'd eat the meat because it's not worth dying over. In the same way that it's not worth going, to me, I know that one of the hardest things I do on my health is flying. Flying's really hard on my health. It's a stressful day, no matter how low stress I try to make it. It's hard, especially if you're going through a lot of time zones. But I've got a message to bring to people, and I've got a mission, and I've got a grand desire to do this. And I know people really appreciate it. And when I go to Cedro Woolley and run a month of retreats this year, I mean, it's 8 time zones. It's a big deal, and people are going to fly to get there too, in the name of their health, you know, and seeking health. To me, it's worth that. It's worth that, and it's a compromise in my health, but it's worth it. And you and I have had some late night talks where we've given up sleep in order to hash something out, and it was worth it. And over and over and over. Right now, you can get apricots that are magnificent flavor, just magnificent apricots right now, but they're not organic. Are they worth eating for a week or two? Some conventional apricots? Probably. For me, yeah. I know there's other guys who say, no, if it's not organic, I won't eat it. At my retreats, we do 100% organic on every single thing, even the herbs we use. I mean, everything is organic. But if I go somewhere and I can't eat organic, I'm still going to eat. I'm going to eat. Is it as good as if I ate organic? No. And because I eat a lot of fruits and vegetables, the organic issue is a bigger issue than if I ate no fruits and vegetables. People ask me what kind of water to drink. And I go, well, I never drink water, so it doesn't really matter what kind of water. But in my house, we do distill water and always have distilled water available. And if I need water for something, I'm going to use distilled water. If it's for human consumption. But I remember one time I was out on a run, and we were in South Florida, and it was record-breaking heat, and I had gone for this 20-mile run, and I'm 5 miles from water, and I can't go on. I just can't go on. I can't. All I'm thinking about is water. I can't spit. My mouth is dry. Now, I went into a restaurant and just asked for a glass of water, please. And they gave me a glass of water. And I didn't really care where the water came from or what was in. I know it came straight out of the tap. It was not great water, but sure was great to me to have water enough so I could go home and drink clean water. The whole supplementation thing, I'm sorry, it's a fear-based, and as you said, it's fear-mongering. It's selling, but a tremendous number of industries are based on that whole thing. And still, I do buy travel insurance when I fly. I buy travel insurance. I recommend people come to me, buy travel insurance. If you're going to fly a big long trip and be away for 2 months, and buy travel insurance. You might need a dentist or something while you're out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And on this kind of topic, there have been a couple of people that have previously been doing a raw vegan or vegan diet that have, for some reason, over the last year or so, there's been a bit of a trend of people experimenting with going back to eating meat and other animal products. And some of them have testimonials of eating meat, and all of a sudden the next day all the problems are gone, and or even maybe right after the meal, all of a sudden whatever health challenges they were having have disappeared completely, and everything's better all of a sudden. And I would like to ask you, is that, for a start, is it realistic that someone would have some major deficiency or health issues that would go away overnight after one meal? And do you feel that it's possible for someone to have had some problem that would have been cured by eating meat or some other animal product?
Not in any way, ever. And I've had this conversation with a lot of doctors. We've hashed this one through again and again and again, because I have seen it. I've seen it now and again. There's two things that come to mind that I certainly want to touch upon, and one of them is memory. So remember that, and we'll get back to memory. The other one is nutritionally. There's about 100 nutrients in meat. There's 500,000 nutrients in plants. So you have an option, including the 100 that are in meat, are also in plants. So there's nothing in meat that you need to get that you can't get from plants. Doesn't mean you automatically get it from plants. You have to eat responsibly. I mean, I've met people who tried to live on just watermelon, and that didn't work. And I met people who tried to live on just tomatoes, and that didn't work. And I met people who tried to live on just oranges, and that didn't work. Met a lot of people who tried to live on a lot of different things that didn't work. I mean, generally, eventually they come to me and say, why is this not working? And I go, well, there's got to be some roundedness in your diet, not just tomatoes. I'm serious. But so just because somebody's diet wasn't working doesn't mean they were eating all that well, no matter what they tell you. Or that their problems had to do with their diet at all. Mm-hmm. It could have been emotional, it could have been stresses, it could have been fitness issues, it could have been sleep, it could have been any number of other issues. But not only are there no nutrients that they could have possibly picked up from an animal that they weren't getting already from plants, but eating a meal or two of an animal isn't going to give them enough of anything that they could possibly get, that symptoms would just suddenly subside. So, but we know it happens. So we have to eventually go, how come it happens? The second one was memory. Ronnie, Do you remember why you started making diet changes? Just yes or no.
Not exactly.
Okay. Nor do most people. They don't really remember why they started making diet changes.
Yeah.
They know they did.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And eventually they come up with some reasons to support making those diet changes. You know, and you learn about the environment, and you learn about the ethics, and you learn about the animals, and you learn about the nutrition, and you learn about the health, and you learn about more. You know, you learn about global warming, even. You learn about vaccinations or whatever it is. But most people forget. Suffering is very hard to remember. You can't recreate pain in your mind. And so when people are experiencing symptoms and then those symptoms go away, it's hard to remember how bad those symptoms were. It's hard to remember why you shifted away. But there's a reason people went from cooked to raw. And although indeed every single person has their own unique reason, every single person also has one reason in common. And that is that cooked food wasn't getting them where they wanted to go. And if cooked food wasn't getting you where you wanted to go 3 years ago, 7 years ago, 14 years ago, 28 years ago, or whatever it was, it's not going to get you where you want to go now either. Cooked food hasn't changed for the better. And so a lot of times we see people going raw and then not, and going raw and then not, and then going raw and then not. Because they forget. They forget how much they were suffering with whatever their individual suffering was. But it's not going to come back after one meal. There's a cumulative effect that takes some time to take hold. When you're in great health, you can withstand practically anything for whatever the period of time is. So why is it? Why does somebody feel better? Well, the main reason people feel better right away is because they stop feeling.
Mm.
If you've got a pain, if you've got a discomfort, if you've got a problem, whatever that is, one of the best ways to feel better instantly is to stop feeling. So if you can go numb, if you can numb yourself with your food, cool. Then you don't feel your pain. But the pain's still there and it hasn't gone away and the problem's still there. And if you don't feel it, it's more likely to get even worse. The way most people prefer to stop feeling their pain, because human beings are just wired this way, we're interested in stuff. We like stimulants. Human beings really like stimulants. I would say human beings are suckers for stimulation. There was a psychologist of some renown many years ago who tried cocaine. Nobody knew that it was bad for you. This is early on, right? Nobody knew it was bad for you. He tried cocaine. He wrote endlessly about the benefits of cocaine. He wrote so much about you really can't be your true self without cocaine. That's when you think on a higher level. You're a better person when you're stimulated out of your mind. A lot of people say they can't think in the morning until they had a cup of coffee, until they've had their stimulants.
Yes.
Okay. When you eat animals, you're taking on their adrenaline. It's a burst of adrenaline like nobody's business. You get it from the first bite. I mean, can you imagine being a cow being led through a slaughterhouse, hearing the other cows, the smell of death, all the stuff that's going on? Cows freak out as they go through that assembly line. And the adrenaline in their muscle meat is profound.
Really? Yeah.
Oh, profound, measurable, off the charts. and it's not just cow meat. You know, chickens are going through the same thing, and fish are going through the same thing. They're being suffocated to death. They're going through profound, extreme challenges, and their body's putting out a cocktail of hormones, of stimulating hormones, to try to get out of that situation, to do everything they possibly can to get out of that. And then when we eat it, we get it right away. It's the same. I mean, adrenaline's adrenaline. There are some things like growth hormones that are unique to the animal, except for cows and humans. But they're unique to the animal. Every animal has its own growth hormones that are different than ours. But adrenaline is just adrenaline. The adrenaline in every animal is the same. It's just adrenaline. It's not different. Dog adrenaline is not different than human adrenaline. So when you eat an animal that's been slaughtered, I mean, right away you're stimulated like crazy, and so you feel better. For sure, you feel better. I've dealt with at least a few of the individuals you're talking about, leaders in the health field, who eventually tried eating non-vegan or non-raw, or gone all the way back to meats or other animal products, and came out right away and said how much better they felt, and then came to me and said, you know what, after a couple weeks, I don't feel so much better. I don't really feel better than I did before. What's going on with my health? You know, and then I'll do everything I can to guide them back to health, because they had never actually dealt with the problem. They just masked it for a while with enough stimulants so that they felt better. But I do not see, if the thing is, the substances are known. Nutrition, we might not know what every nutrient does or how they interact or there's a lot we don't know about nutrition, and when you get into micronutrition, but there's not a lot of hidden substances. Animal products contain about 100 nutrients. Plants contain between 100 and 500,000 nutrients, depending on the plant. But there's several 100,000 nutrients. It's a no-brainer to me. We're built to eat plants, and we're going to do our best on plants. And if your diet, now let me rephrase that, if your health is not at the level that you want it to be, we might want to look into that a little more fully before seeing if stimulation will be the answer. Because you moved away from eating animals for the same reason that you're moving back to eating animals. That can't possibly work. It can't possibly work that I stopped eating animals and I noticed a dramatic health improvement, and then I started eating animals and I noticed a dramatic health improvement. I mean, that just can't.
Yeah, so the question, a more specific question that comes along with this for me is that there's been a few people that they're often talking about digestion type problems, and some people are saying that when they were doing vegan, or maybe even fruit as well, that they were getting pains when they were digesting plant foods, and that when they decided to just eat meat, that these pains went away. And I guess the question is there some way of understanding why that happens, and is fiber causing an issue for some people, or what's your kind of feedback on that?
Well, certainly fiber is part of that equation. We have to also remember that fiber comes in two forms. There's soluble fiber and non-soluble fiber. We're set up mostly to consume soluble fibers. And soluble fibers work really well in our digestive tract. We don't do well with very much insoluble fiber. And there's another creature that's built a lot like us that eats a fair amount of insoluble fiber. He's the lowland gorilla and the highland gorilla, because they're designed to eat fruit. They get fruit when they go to zoos and whatnot, but in nature, they can't access that much fruit because 500-pound gorillas out on skinny branches, you can imagine the result of that. So it doesn't work well for them. They can't access as much fruit, so they got to eat something. So they eat a lot of leaves. They eat a lot of insoluble fiber, and basically have big swollen bellies and gas all day long, which isn't the way we aspire to look or feel. So if you overdo it on vegetables, you certainly can get into digestive issue problems. If you overdo it on tough vegetables, you can certainly get into. I mean, a lot of people know, when you eat cauliflower or broccoli, and they're tough to digest, and you end up with a lot of wind. You can end up. I mean, you got a 50-foot digestive tract that's twisting back and forth on itself and can get kinked, and you're trying to pass wind and it hurts, and it just won't flow through your system. You've got, your body's made up of about 100 trillion cells, but there's many, I don't even know how many, quadrillion microbes in your intestinal tract. We're outnumbered thousands to one, millions to one by the bacteria which we host. And those bacterial colonies shift in number dramatically quickly because you're talking about a 20-minute reproductive cycle. So they can go through 72 generations in a day. And so it's tremendously quick. And what is known as SIBO is not at all uncommon in people who aren't eating kindly to them, for their own abilities. You can overeat on your ability to deal with the fiber, and so you end up with SIBO. It's a small intestinal bowel overgrowth. Small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, and you can end up with this overgrowth, and then you're very unhappy. You can adjust that by changing your diet. You can adjust that by wiping the blackboard clean and starting again. This is called various antibacterials that people will take. There's a common one that's known as metronidazole that people take around the world. It's an over-the-counter drug in most countries. And then you just wipe the slate. You bring the numbers down by, a huge amount and start over again. And again, because you're dealing with microbes and 72 generations in a day, you're back in business in a day or two anyway. So we're not overly worried. I'm not the drug guy. I'm not recommending drugs. I'm not suggesting that as the solution, because taking the solution and then going back to causing the problem isn't a solution. People can fast. I mean, I offer a short fast to people in Sedro-Woolley this September, to people having similar problems who just want to clear it up and then get back onto the right track and eat well for a while. And that's certainly another way to do it. You don't want to see people suffering. I don't want to see anybody suffering. I think the reason there are health professionals is because a lot of people do other things for a living. We can't all be health professionals. I mean, I bring my car to a mechanic because they can do a better job on my car than I can. I understand what they're doing, but I can't do it as well as they can do it. And it's not worth to me bloodying my knuckles or whatever would happen. So they do it. And there's a reason to ask a qualified, experienced person for some guidance now and then. If you're having problems, get some help, because sometimes it's hard to see the problem all by yourself. You're too deep. It's like trying to learn how to swim while you're drowning. It's not a good time. You've got other issues that are more pressing. Have you seen the guys? Have you seen the guys that are up on stage that have never played a guitar in their life, and then they're handed a guitar and asked to sing a song? It's a tough time to learn how to play guitar.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing with food. I mean, we all think, hey, we're expert at eating because we've all eaten, but
Right.
some people have put a lifetime worth of passion into studying what's going on, and other people are just excited.
But
Very
so,
enthusiastic.
so here's is meat digested in some kind of different way that makes it temporarily easier for them to eat if they've got a damaged digestive system in some way?
Well, you don't digest meat at all. You actually don't digest meat. You can't digest meat. I've not seen anybody actually digest meat. We don't have what it takes from the get-go. Our stomach acid is about 1/100th as strong as it would need to be to help us digest meat. We don't have what it takes to digest meat. We don't carry the microbial colonies. And so what happens to the meat we eat is that it rots. And you can tell when it rots because, when you defecate, it smells like rotten meat. It smells like something died. I hate going to the airport in the bathroom in the airport. It's just terrible for that very reason, because people, it's bad. No, you can't digest the meat. What? But if you're not taking in fiber, then you quickly deal with this small intestinal bacterial overgrowth that's living on all of that fiber. People think that when they poop, they're pooping the food they eat. You poop this nice big poop, whatever it is, and it's the food I ate, but it's not. It's only a tiny, tiny portion, almost a smidge of what you poop is actually the food you ate. Most of it's the indigestible fiber from the food you ate and bacteria. More than half your poop is just bacteria. They're coming out because they're hanging on to that fiber. The big volume is it's mostly bacteria. You're just pooping them out because they have 72 generations a year. I mean, a day, 72 generations a day. Can you imagine? You start with a penny, and at the end of 30 generations, you've got 100 million pennies. Can you imagine another 32 generations in the same day? You start with 100 million pennies. I don't know what you have at the end of a day, but it's in the quadrillions somewhere. And I mean, the same thing's happening to microbes. So we poop them out. Otherwise, you'd have too many. Scary thought. But that's just, I don't know. People don't know. And they don't need to know. What do we need to be telling people? Eat fruits and vegetables. Fruits and vegetables are really good for you.
When you're saying you don't digest meat, so what happens to it? You're saying it just rots and goes.
It rots. The bacteria digest some of it. You chewed the meat, and when you chewed it, you accessed some of the nutrients that were in the meat because you broke the cell, right? Plants have cell walls. Animals have cell membranes. But when you chew meat, and I don't care whether, we're talking fish or fowl or whatever, but when you chew the meat, you break down some of those cell membranes and access the nutrients that are inside those cells. That's the liquid portion, and that's where the nutrients are. And that, of course, you can then digest it and absorb it and assimilate it and utilize it and whatever. But most people don't chew anywhere near as well as they think they do. We've all seen the occasional blueberry get through and go, wow, I thought I chewed all those blueberries. Some of them just come out, as is. Corn, whatever it is. We find out we didn't chew anywhere near as well as we thought. And we don't chew our meat till it's, liquid. So the rest of the meat is simply, we can't break it down. We don't have what it takes to digest meat. We just get ill off of it. We get incredibly sick off of it. But you dramatically cut the fiber. There's no fiber. There's zero fiber in meat. And so all of the bacteria that are in your gut that were feasting on fiber, all of a sudden they've got lean times. So you
are those bacteria causing the pains that people are getting, that people seem to be claiming they've got?
Well, no, but probably the pains are wind. It's probably gas just trying to get through the intestinal tract. And this is obviously a generic guess, right? But it's probably gas. But because your intestine's this long, hollow tube, it's basically, just a very soft, mushy tube. There can be enough kinks in there that the gas doesn't pass through easily. And then it builds up a little bit and you feel uncomfortable and you get some pains until the wind passes, and then it got through that spot. If people eat more than a few times a day, they're never giving their digestive system the rest that it needs in order to have really powerful muscular contractions that are the peristaltic contractions that move your food through your system. And if that's not efficient, then it's not effective either. And so once you've weakened that process, you're more prone to having the wind build up. If you're eating more fiber than you can handle, people ask when I is it possible to overeat on fruit? And sure, if you eat until you fall asleep, that was too much. If you eat until you hurt, that was too much. If you eat so much that you're gaining weight uncontrollably or undesired, that's too much. If you're eating fruit, though, and it's beyond your digestive capacity, like some people say, if I eat 3 bananas, I'm good. But if I eat 6 bananas or 8 bananas, then I just get terrible wind. Well, yeah, because you just can't handle it. It takes time to be able to handle. You've got to develop the microbial colonies that will allow you to accommodate your food. Normally, this doesn't take long, but it does take some days.
So that's been a pretty deep discussion. I enjoyed that a lot, actually. And
oh, bless.
Maybe we can get some more questions. We've got a few questions, but
I can give shorter answers. I don't have to go.
We'll segue just about the festival briefly. And Doug will be at the festival this year for the 6th time. And if you want to sign up tonight, you can use the code 801010. If you want to hear more from Doug at the festival, and you use his code, then we'll make sure that has a lot of time to speak. And the prices are going up tonight by £300 per standard ticket. So tonight is the best time to sign up. Make sure you don't get the late charge, the late pricing.
If you're even considering thinking about signing up, just sign up. It's the best week of the year. I'm just so excited to go there. The facility is really accommodating. The time of year, we tend to have good weather. I know you can't promise good weather, but the facility makes it easy. It's well managed. It's the friendliest festival I've ever been to, which is shocking considering it's in England. I hate to say that, but being an outsider, maybe I can get away with it. But super friendly people, and like you said, it's the 6th one, so you've worked a lot of the bugs out of the system at this point. It runs really, really smoothly, and I recommend the UK Fruit Fest with zero hesitation. Zero hesitation.
Yeah, so we'll see you there this year. And any questions? Would anyone like to ask a question? I'll have a look at some of the questions here. Let me have a look up. go up a little bit.
which is how can my internet be unstable? Is it you or is it me?
Are you okay?
Me? I'm still here, right?
Yeah.
So the fitness center is really, really good, and the guy offers a great deal to people who are at the festival, to use the facility. So we have world-class fitness opportunities while we're there. The lake will be full.
Yeah, it's.
I'm looking forward to going sailing on the lake again.
I didn't know you did that.
Oh yeah. I used to teach sailing a long time ago.
Yeah, you used to teach a lot of things. It's kind of
Well, I'm trained as a teacher, so I learned how to teach stuff. Physical education includes sailing.
yeah. Yeah, so at the same time, there's people that are, not doing so well on whatever diet they were doing. I'd like to ask you this question that you were talking about memory as a big thing, and I've got to the point where, and I don't think this sounds very kind, but I cannot trust almost anything almost anyone says about what they eat almost any time. Whatever they say, whatever it is. I feel like there's always more to the story. Whenever someone tells me I've been doing the 8-10-10 diet for 10 years and it's not working for me, or I've been doing this and I I always find that there's more to it. If I keep on asking the person, if I get a chance to be around them, I find out there's much more to it than what they claim. Is that really the biggest challenge we have in trying to help people with this diet, or um, with any diet? Is that everyone's kind of idea of what they're doing, an idea of why they are not doing well on it, is often doesn't really match reality.
Can I tell you two very quick stories?
Yeah.
All right. So I'm at a place called Life Grocery in Marietta, Georgia, doing a lecture at the Life Grocery, and it's well attended. It's a big store, and after I do the talk on the 80-10-10 diet, this guy comes up to me, young man, maybe 30 years old, 35, something like that, very fit looking, really clean, wearing all white clothes, and it turns out he's a massage therapist and does a bunch of yoga and looks like he's super healthy and fit. And he goes, I've been eating exactly like you just described, but I'm having endless problems with my health, especially with candida problems. And I said to him, you can't be having candida problems if you're eating 80-10-10. I mean, it's just not possible. We use 80-10-10 to help people with candida problems, not to create candida problems. And he goes, but I've been eating just like you said. I said, I'll tell you what, let me just finish the presentation, and then I'll sit down and talk with you. So I sat down and talked with him after the presentation. It was very friendly. Everybody, we're happy. And I said, here's what I need you to do. Just, what do you eat for breakfast? And he told me. And I wrote it down on a piece of paper. And what do you eat for lunch? And he told me. And I wrote it down. And what do you eat for dinner? And he told me. And I wrote it down. And I said, do you eat anything else generally? And he goes, no, I'm really, really particular. I just eat 3 meals a day. I'm really particular. I go, okay. And then I very quickly in front of him did the math to show him that although he thought he was doing exactly what I said, which was to eat 10% roughly of your calories from fat, I don't care, 5%, 15%, somewheres in the low double digits percent calories from fat, he was actually eating 55% of his calories from fat. Which is why when I tell you that I've done the math on a lot of raw fooders and that the average raw fooder is eating between 60 to 80% of the calories from fat, I'm not exaggerating, not one bit. he was eating what he considered to be an extremely low-fat diet, and 55% of the calories came from fat. But he didn't see it because he wasn't doing the math ever. A lot of the fat was hidden into things where he wasn't aware of so much the fat that was there, and how it sneaks up, and how it's so many more calories per bite than carbohydrate or protein. So that's one story. The second story is that I read this book, which I think I might have talked to you about on at least one occasion before. The book was called Nutrition and Sports Performance. Mm-hmm. And it was a series of studies, the results of a series of studies that were organized by the International Olympic Committee. So, I mean, it's a pretty reputable book. And the results in that book were pretty, like, I believe them. I had no reason not to believe them. And they did a study on a bunch of athletes that included a bunch of gymnasts. They were looking for athletes that were training notoriously long hours. And so they used gymnasts primarily, but they used other athletes who were training notoriously long hours, 30 to 40 hours a week of training or more, as gymnastics allows for that sort of thing. You can spend a lot of hours in the gym. So, and what the study was to understand how they manage their weight. And what the athletes had to do was every day for 3 months, they had to write down what they ate and then compare that against various nutritional things that everybody was doing. And the conclusion of the study was that there's not an athlete in the group that can keep track of what they eat because the math doesn't work. Here's little girls who were saying that they were eating 2,000 calories a day while they were using 3,500 calories a day in their fitness activities. So by all rights, they should be losing a kilo or two per week for the whole 12 weeks. They should have lost 20 kilos in this period of time, but they weighed the same thing at the end of the study as they did at the beginning. So obviously they were eating something else that they weren't writing down. And that was just like the average example, but it was happening over and over and over to the point where they said, we can't actually do, there's lots of studies like that I find fascinating, but this one in particular said people, even dedicated athletes who are, it's part of their job to track their food, have a crazy difficult time keeping track of their food. It's not easy to keep track of every bite that goes in your mouth. It gets easier on 80-10-10 because you're either eating an apple or a banana. It can be very simple food as opposed to a bite of a burger, which could have 400 ingredients in it. But still, people have a hard time keeping, I just had a couple almonds. I didn't even count that. I just had a glass of this. It wasn't a meal. It was just that didn't even matter. And they think, that doesn't count. Well, it all counts, but people have a hard time counting it and keeping track of it. You are absolutely correct. People have a very hard time keeping track of what they eat.
I've not had anywhere near as much experience as you have, but I've already.
Tell me what you want to hear.
I've got a number of stories myself of people that have been part of some of the raw food groups that I've had, or some of the little events that I've put on up here, and they've not necessarily said that they were doing the diet 100%, but they've said they were mostly raw, mostly 80-10-10, or
except for the daily exceptions.
Yeah, and they're looking for why it's not working for them and why it's not, something's wrong, they're not quite feeling the thing. And this is almost like, it was meant to happen. I'm not sure why, but 2 times this happened to me where someone said to me this kind of thing, like it wasn't working for them, this thing. And one of them, it was about a week or a couple of weeks later, I'm sitting in the library and I see them come in, and they've got this thing of sushi and this thing of something else, and they're eating this sushi and they're eating this other stuff. And I'm thinking, okay, well, this is very strange that they've been telling me that they're doing 80-10-10 raw vegan diet, and they're obviously not doing that. And another person, it was literally almost the day after they told me about why they were asking why they weren't feeling this energy on a raw vegan diet. And I was at a vegan little festival the next day, and they walked past me and they were eating, the equivalent of vegan fish and chips. And like, it was so clear, like it was the next day, it was often the next day or the next week. And it's happened again and again since then, not as clear as that, but where I've been in a conversation with a person, they present their diet, and I know, like you're saying, if they're saying if someone says to me I'm gaining weight on fruit, I always think there's probably more to it, because it takes a while for most people to actually eat enough fruit, and just the experience over time, you start to realize the person isn't being entirely honest. But I do think there's something that, because the foods that people eat are so addictive, that there's something about addiction and stimulation that, I've got a friend who was once a heroin addict, and to this day he will not say anything negative about heroin.
Me too, and I've got the same thing from my friend.
And it's like, he just won't allow himself to say that was he'll say to me things like, the reason that heroin addicts look bad is not to do with the heroin, it's because they don't eat, because they stop eating and then they become malnourished. And I'm like, no, it's the heroin, like, it's definitely the heroin. But he just won't let it. And that's I don't know what you call that psychologically, but I feel like yeah, but I feel like that's what's happening with a lot of these different foods, is that people just cannot accept that is the problem. But with fruit, it is so unstimulating and unaddictive, really, that they're happy to put the blame on fruit and raw food.
Sure.
Fascinating.
Everybody wants their cake and eat it too. They want to have life on their terms. They want all the credit for being a raw fooder, and then all the credit for not being a raw fooder. They want the credit for being honest about their position. They want the benefits of a raw food diet, whether they eat the raw food diet or not. We want to have bought stock in Coca-Cola in 1920 and now be multimillionaires. But we didn't, and so we want the results without having put in the effort. We want to write the bestseller. We want to be, whatever it is. We want to get all that. You want to have the gifts that come from a long-term stable relationship with somebody, but you want to go out with a different girl every night too, and whatever. I don't know. I'm not saying I'm not. There are things where you just have to accept. I've been in so many rooms where I ask people, and you've heard me ask, who would like to be stronger 10 years from now? And everybody raises their hand. Yeah, I'd like to be stronger than I am 10 years from now. I definitely want to be stronger than I am now. And then I say, well, who's doing strength training? And nobody raises their hand, or two people raise their hand. Well, what do you think? How is that going to happen? We all want the results without putting in the effort.
Yeah.
And then on certain things, we eventually go, well, you know what? But I am going to brush my teeth, because if I don't brush my teeth, they're going to fall out. I want to have nice teeth. I'm going to brush them at least once in a while. I'm going to brush them. And you give in and you take some personal responsibility. And to me, it's a phenomenal joy that those guidelines from nature exist. Like, eat fruits and vegetables, and a phenomenal number of things will be well as a result of just that. Because you're not eating, whether it's because of eating the fruits and vegetables or because you're not eating the other stuff, it's a moot point. It's both and more. But people do have a hard time with it, and you know, especially once you're up on stage or you've got your platform, you've got your YouTube channel, and you've got your followers. You don't want to just go, well, folks, you know, I've changed my diet, so you guys might as well go follow somebody else now. Nobody's going to do that. They're going to go, I've changed my diet, so now follow me even more because I'm being honest and open with you about it. Now, yes, I know you wanted to learn about raw veganism, and I'm no longer a raw vegan, but couldn't I still go on a raw vegan stage now and then and be counted as a raw vegan? Like, I should be able to coach raw vegans, even though I'm not a raw vegan. I'm not saying who should coach. Look, I can't do a triple backflip, but I can teach it to people. I've only done a few triple backflips in my whole life. You know, I certainly wouldn't tell you, hey, I can do them. I have done them, but I know how to teach them because I've done a single backflip.
But you know, there's no professional boxer that's being coached by another guy that's still boxing. So there's always the person that the coach is always someone that just has the experience but doesn't necessarily
still have the skills.
Or
ever had the skills.
Yeah, but I don't think in raw food, I can't imagine that. I really think you have to be doing it to teach it to someone. And yeah, I think there's been some
apparently
mistakes.
Not, at least by, you know, at least some of the presenters.
Yeah, it's something that with the UK festival, we get a lot of different people asking us about speaking and getting in touch, and some of them are, you know, very good people, and I've no doubt that they are doing this kind of diet or lifestyle. And but I think it's pretty important to have people that are really following this long term to teach and
how to teach it raw, how to follow it long term.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you completely. And it doesn't mean that people who aren't, you know, or who were raw and then aren't anymore or whatever, it doesn't mean that they don't have great insights to offer. They probably do have great insights to offer. You know, I don't poo-poo their value and benefit. But teaching other people how to succeed on raw food probably isn't it.
This is the worry for me about a number of events, is that we start to, even some of the teachers, even some of the people that are raw, is that they end up doing a whole presentation on their emotional journey, and or their spiritual this and that, and their you know, they're dealing with their whatever it was, their family or their relationships or all this stuff, and I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, I'm pretty sure the people in this audience are trying to still figure out how to eat this diet. I'm pretty sure they're probably going to put their hand up and say, how many bananas do you eat? You know, I don't think I think sometimes that even for the people that do this, that the diet it doesn't attract the kind of attention that people sometimes want, maybe from when they're putting out a message and they end up wanting to speak about running an online business, or they want to speak about this. And I'm thinking, I think the most profound thing for them to speak about is the diet and the life and this kind of lifestyle and the benefits of it and everything else. And that's the maximum value that they can give to other people in many situations.
Well, there's other things going on with that. One is, at most festivals and retreats and whatever, at most of the stuff, the people who come, most of the people, it runs between about 65 and 75% from what I've seen, are newcomers. And the newcomers want to learn the mechanics of how do I do this? You know, how do I store bananas? How do I ripen bananas? How do I keep fruit flies out of my house? How do I, whatever it is, you know, how do I satiate it? How do I entertain? How do I How do I make sure I always have food in the house? Whatever. It's the basics. And that's 75% of the people. But let's say another 20% of the people who are there have been doing the program for a few years. They're coming to the festival for the people.
Mm.
They're not coming to learn the basics. They've got the basics. They're coming for the social experience. You know, my daughter calls it her tribe. She goes to a raw food festival. She gets to be with her tribe. And it's the only time she gets to be with her tribe is at a festival or at a retreat, at my retreats. The rest of the time, she's just out interacting with the public. And yeah, they're all human, but they're not her tribe. They don't see the world the same way as we do. And if they're not vegan, they don't have that compassion. And if they're pro-vaccine, they I don't know. I don't even want to try to describe what that mindset is, but it's a different mindset, to bypass all of the body's protections and inject poison. So whatever it might be, they're coming for a different reason, but they're only a small. They might not attend any lectures. The people attending the lectures are the beginners. You could run an entire festival just for beginners, because that's who comes anyway.
And what I find funny is that some of those people some of them are doing the diet. A lot of them have left the diet behind, but they still come to the event, right? So there's still I'm speaking more about other events because I don't necessarily know what everyone's doing at my festival or whatever, but at other events, because I know maybe the people have known them longer, and I know more of them personally maybe and outside of the festival, and I know they're no longer doing this diet, but they're still coming back to the event, or maybe they just like having that week of doing it and then going back to whatever they're doing. And it's I think that these events are so unique. There's no one else where they can go and get that kind of experience, and people say to me stuff like, "Oh, I had the time of my life at your festival. It was the best week of the year. It was this and that and everything else." And
it's a fantastic time.
But they don't make the connection that a part of that is because of the fact that they were eating better for that week than usual, and they were around other people that were doing that same thing. And a quick story. There was a photo that we shared on one of our pages, and it was a photo of a girl who was at the festival last year, and when I put this picture up, she commented on it and she said, I really had a great time at the festival. It taught me so much, had amazing experiences, but what I actually learned was how much damage I've done to my body on a vegan diet. And now I'm eating a carnivore diet and I'm healthier than ever and I feel so, and all this stuff. And I was so kind of disappointed. I don't know what the emotions are, but I was kind of surprised at the very least. And you start to think, what are we doing wrong here? Like, what are we not getting across this message? What's happening? And then a couple of days later, she shared this picture of herself at the beach, and she was saying, when you're sick at the beach, she was saying that she was sick. She was saying, when you're sick, it's much better to be sick at the beach while you're eating ice cream and chocolate croissants. And I was thinking to myself, I'm pretty sure that's not the carnivore diet or the paleo diet, whatever you want to call it. And, it was so it's so confusing to me that a person can say in one sentence, like, this was the best experience, fantastic people, fantastic whatever. But what I'm going to learn from it is to just go right back to eating whatever I like, kind of junk diet, and suffer whatever the consequences of that are.
Wow.
And the only thing I think that we can be is remain open to people and encourage them to come back at some point and whatever. But I'm surprised that people can get in that environment and not make the changes that I made. And I don't know, I'm not saying I'm different, or maybe I was focusing a little bit more. Maybe I was a little farther down the road and I was ready for it more. I don't know. But it's surprising to me that people enter that environment, have that experience, that feeling, and don't relate it to what they were eating, the people they were around, the whole atmosphere because of the food. I think there's a difference with that.
The filters. We all have our own filters. We're right back to the beginning. We all have our own. We hear the same words or experience the same. You know, you all watch a football game and everybody sees different things. Some people notice what other people were wearing, and some people notice the players, and some people are just paying attention to the coaches. And we all have our own unique experience of everything that goes on around us. It's a fascinating world, and to try to reach people from the stage is a lovely challenge for me. It's something I tremendously enjoy to try to reach as many of the people in the audience as possible rather than just key in on a few. But you know, I'm reading through some of the comments and some people really like what I'm saying, and that's lovely. Thank you very much. And then other people go, well, you know, you haven't answered my question, so you know, what's the deal here? Or I don't like what you said, and I can't be everything for everybody. Not everybody loves me. I wish it was that way, but not everybody loves me. Some people go, well, you know, it's not my cup of tea, and so that's how it has to be for them. What I'm doing is working really well for me. It's worked for tens of thousands, if not now hundreds of thousands of people. It's a fairly simple pattern to follow, and you know, it seems to be in line with nutritional science and health science in every way that I know how to. 80-10-10 Diet book has been out for more than a decade, and so far no one has pointed to even one anything in that book that wasn't scientifically sound, you know, that doesn't hold water properly, or that they can tear it down in some way or another. So I'm happy with that. I'm proud of that, and you know, I don't think I overstated my case. That's the one. Yeah. It's still catching on like crazy. It's still coming out in new languages all the time, which I'm very honored. And you know, we just I'm moving on. I mean, I'm still doing 80-10-10, but I'm moving on.
Yeah.
Other areas of interest in my life and other things that are fascinating to me. I mean, I've just put together, just finishing touches now on a book called Recovery, which I hope will be, I don't know if it'll get the same reception 80-10-10 did, but to me, I think the work that's in it is more profound. Because 80-10-10, you know, that was just rehashing old news. But I'm excited for the recovery book, and it won't be out for summer, but I'm hoping it'll be out for Christmas. And it's got about 600 lessons on recovery.
Excellent.
Yeah, I mean, I'm being busy. I've already started the next book, because that one's, as I'm finishing this one, I'm starting the next one, and I will have for summer. I'm going to say this and put myself out on a limb, but I will have available for summer my book on what is called 80-10-10 social leadership. So we'll see how that one lies.
Well, thank you very much for joining us tonight, Doug, and I think we've had a really
It's a treat. I love spending time with you. I'm really looking forward to the festival. The there are very few weeks out of the year where I will work longer hours than at the festival. But I love every second of that. I'm there to meet everybody and get a chance to talk with as many people as I possibly can in that week, and be a force for good in people's lives. So I appreciate you allowing me to do that. Thanks for having me back.
Yeah. Well, you know, I was speaking about what I'm just about to talk about. We'll finish up tonight. I'll just talk about the festival a little bit when we finish up with Doug here, and the story of the festival, the story of how it came about. And really a big moment was the Slovenia Fruits and Health Festival a number of years ago, probably 2013, 2014. And at the very end of the event, the audience was there, you and Rosalind were at the front, and you were saying, what are you going to do to make the world a better place? You know, you were saying to the audience, and people were saying, I'm going to love people. I'm going to be kind to more people. I'm going to be whatever they were saying. And in my mind, I was thinking, I'm going to put on a fruit festival. You know, that's what I was thinking. And I think I asked you about it at the end of the thing. I said, we should do a festival in the UK. And you said, yeah, I would support that. And I thought to myself, well, if Doug would support it, there's got a chance that it'll happen, you know, that it'll work out. And then when we went to Woodstock, and I've told you this a number of times, but you said on stage, Ronnie's going to put on a fruit festival in the UK. So the challenge was accepted, and really that's where it's come. It's kept going since then,
And look at now, it's like, it's big, it's growing every year, it's growing in size, it's growing in numbers, it's growing in duration. It's 6 years. There are very few festivals in the entire history of the world that have gone on for 6 years. You know?
Yeah,
yeah. I mean, Portland was the biggest thing that ever happened, and it only lasted 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so you're now into some very special ground.
Yeah, so we just hope we can try and keep it going and do something good. So thank you very much for joining us, Doug.
Again, thank you, Ronnie. It's a treat.
If you're signing up tonight for the festival, you get 10% off with Doug's code 801010. That'll let us know as well that you want to see more of Doug at the festival, and it will. Also, the prices are rising tonight, so it's a good time to jump in before the prices rise. There's really no risk to you because you still can get a refund if you can't make it. So feel free to sign up with no risk.
And I have to say, Ronnie, you know, Chris said that he's up to like 82 kilos now. I'm glad to see him doing that, but you will see more of me too, because I've decided to move up a class in my powerlifting competitions. I've decided to move up a class, so I put on about 4 kilos. I don't weigh anything like 80, but I'm getting, you know, I'm going in the general direction and competing at 74 now. So 66 was a really light. So going up to 74 just made all the sense in the world.
Okay, well,
so you'll see more of me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. We'll look forward to that. Well, thank you very much, Doug, and we'll see you at the festival.
All right, buddy. Every success.
Excellent. Okay, thank you for joining us, everyone, and we will just finish off with some information about the festival and the story of the festival. And if you're interested in hearing more about that, you can stay around. If not, feel free to leave. No problem. And you can leave any questions you like. We're going to start with this presentation if I can find it. I might as well just share the screen, I suppose. Share the screen and we'll jump up into here. I did this presentation a little bit earlier, and the problem with it, there's no pictures. All the pictures disappeared. I don't know why the pictures disappeared. So you'll have to use your imagination a little bit. And the idea with this presentation is to teach you about the festival and give you all the information you need to learn more about it and make a decision as to whether it's something you would like to be a part of. This slide is meant to have a big picture there of all the people last year, but what is the UK Fruit Fest? It is an event that's held to celebrate, to educate people about the raw vegan diet and lifestyle, to provide support, to create a community. You might hear the word festival and you think like a music festival, or you might think like a veg fest type event where it's a big hall with a lot of distributors and different businesses and things like that, and hundreds of different things going on. It's not really what the festival is. The festival is more of an educational program and a holiday camp and a retreat all rolled into one, where your accommodation is provided for you, your food is provided for you, 100% raw vegan menu, and you get a chance to have this educational program taught to you by the best raw vegan teachers of the raw vegan diet that the world has to offer right now. But the important thing about the festival is really the community that it creates. The community, the people coming together, the inspiration you get from that is something that you cannot really replicate in any other situation. And I think that in modern life, people are missing out on community and togetherness and fellowship. And we tend to have our barriers up a lot in life. We are separating ourselves from other people. We want to be alone and live alone, and family units broken down a little bit, and people no longer, I mean, my dad used to, when my dad was growing up, he lived in a house with many different members of his family in the house, and that just doesn't happen anymore. When a woman was pregnant and had a child, she had a whole number of women that stayed in the house that would be able to help her out with that whole experience. And now that's just not the case anymore. So we've broken down community, these community experiences, these family experiences. So the festival really, people can get really high just off the fact that it's an experience of openness and vulnerability and connection with a lot of people. And it's fueled really by the fact that we're all eating this amazing diet, and that's making everyone feel great. And it was founded in October 2013. It's a unique festival. The intention is to provide you education, to build support and community to those practicing or interested in a raw vegan or fruitarian kind of diet, and help to accelerate the adoption of a fruit-based diet for the whole planet. That's the bigger goal. Towards those aims, we provide the best quality education of any event in the raw vegan movement. We provide a safe and supportive space for people of all ages and backgrounds to come together and share this experience. We provide a 5 to 8 day immersion experience. We bring the best raw vegan chef in the world to provide incredible food. My name's Ronnie Smith, the founder of the festival. And I attended my first fruit festival in upstate New York, the Woodstock Fruit Festival. And I went alone. I didn't know anyone there, apart from a few people that I'd watched in YouTube videos. And to be honest, the reason I went, I saw the videos about the event and it looked like paradise on earth to me. And I was just getting really interested in this diet. I had this idea or belief or expectation that this diet could really change your life and really change who you were as a person, and would maybe lead to some kind of great enlightenment or something. I didn't really know what I was looking for, but it wasn't particularly for me health concerns and health issues. I was always making changes to my diet because I thought that the diet that I was eating wasn't ideal, but I hadn't really got majorly sick yet. But I was still looking for something bigger, something better, something, whatever it was, I'm not sure. But I felt like I saw that in the video. And it was the people. It was this tribe of people, all, positive, focused on health, focused on personal growth. I thought, that's the kind of people I want to be around. And I went along, and I thought it was like a paradise on earth. Honestly, that's what I thought I was looking at. And I had an incredible experience, and I came home with a new purpose and loads of new amazing friends from all over the world. In 2013, I basically said to myself, "This is the best thing that I've found in recent years. I should just try to focus on this and go to more of these events." So I decided to go to all of the fruit festivals in the world that year. That started in January. I went to Fruit Winter in Chiang Mai, Thailand. That was created by my friend Connor McMillan. I also went to the Fresh Foods Festival in Denmark. These slides should all have pictures, by the way, but the pictures disappeared of their own volition, of their own accord. I have no power over technology. It decides to do what it wants, and I have to accept that. Next was the Fruits and Health Festival in Slovenia, a wonderful event. Back to the Woodstock Fruit Festival, and then the Spanish Festival. And you might be saying to yourself, well, you must have been some kind of millionaire to be doing all this travel. I was working a low-level job in a government call center. I just made a decision that this was the important thing to me, and that's where I put the little money that I had. I didn't buy new clothes. I didn't waste money doing things like that. So I wasn't going out drinking alcohol, taking drugs, all these things that people fritter all their money away on. So I had some money, not a lot, but I had some. And I was able to go to these events. And I never volunteered. I chose to be an attendee because I wanted to sit there and listen and learn. And I knew that I had a lot of learning to do. So I wanted to make sure I got in all the information I could. And that summer, a dream started to grow in me. I loved every single event. I realized I wanted to serve this amazing community. I was so happy at these events and so just high and excited. It was just fantastic. And in Slovenia, Dr. Doug Graham said, "What are you going to do to change the world this year?" He said this to the whole audience. And I was thinking to myself, I'm going to put on a fruit festival in the UK. And I shared the idea with him, and he said he would support it. And all of a sudden, I believed it could happen. And I had no experience and didn't know how to make it happen. All I had was this dream to make it happen, and a love for the raw vegan lifestyle and the people that brought together. And I had a burning desire to do something great for the people in the UK who had no fruit festival. So Fruit Camp took place. And I brought together about 25 friends for a small event in the Derbyshire Dales. And at that event, I shared with them the idea of putting on a bigger festival. And a number of them decided to join and help out. And what followed was the toughest year of my life because none of us knew what we were doing. And when we announced the festival, there was tremendous excitement. The raw vegan community was growing rapidly, it seemed like, and many people said they would help to spread the message for us. We found a venue. There was fantastic speakers decided to come, an amazing chef. Things seemed to be coming together, and the team was working together well. And we were all playing a part in this dream that we believed in. And it almost seemed too easy. We were just about to launch the event and take on our first attendees, and then disaster struck. The Woodstock Fruit Festival had demoted two of the top leaders in the movement from pioneers to special guests. Some of you might remember that. And this may sound trivial, but to many people, it looked like they were being effectively thrown out of the event. This led to a huge divide in the raw vegan community and negative feeling towards other presenters, some of whom happened to be at our festival. The raw vegan movement had been growing rapidly, positively. All of a sudden, it lost a lot of energy, momentum. It collapsed into infighting and squabbling. And a lot of people kind of took advantage of that to point out that thinking that this was, there was many problems with the diet and everything. In huge numbers, people were cancelling their attendance at other events. And this all erupted literally the day before we were going to launch the event. And and not only was the community divided, but the team that was working on the festival was also divided. And some wanted to stop working with the speakers that we'd arranged. Some didn't agree with the message of support to the festival. And as chaos seemed to be reigning, I had a choice to make. And the most logical choice was just to cancel the whole idea, which would have been the easy thing to do. And things got worse. More than half of the team quit, no longer wanting to be part of the event. People that were going to support us no longer would. The biggest website and forum no longer wanted to support us. And we launched and not one single person signed up when we launched our festival on the first day. But we kept going, and I believed we could make it happen. I wanted to see it through completely and not give up. And people were counting on us to make this a success. By some miracle, it all came together. And in June 2014, the first UK Fruit Fest took place. And it was a tough year. 2 people threatened to sue the event. A busload of people from London had money stolen from them, which we knew nothing about. I was betrayed by friends. I was let down by people that I believed would not give up. I was naive enough to let people come who said they would pay later and never did. And I came under severe financial pressure and had to go to family to cover a large debt left at the end of the festival. And so I had a decision to make. Even though people had had a fantastic event, it felt like a bit of an anticlimax for me. And it felt like such a life-changing experience in a way. It's something I never expected it to be like that. I'd been put through so much tremendous stress and pressure. And I put my heart and soul into it and still lost a huge amount of money putting it on. And I didn't really want to put myself through that again and risk losing more, of course. And then I had a realization. I decided that if this was truly my purpose, then I must continue regardless of the risk. I knew I could work out how to make the event better and bring more people. I had to continue for the millions of people out there who needed to hear this message. People in ill health, in pain, in fear, in confusion, looking for a lifeline. Fruit Fest continued in 2015, this in Pulborough, West Sussex. There should be a picture here, but it's not there. There was about 87 people that year. And we grew again in 2016, finding the current home, Cross Farm Water Park. That was 120 people that year. And we had 170 people in 2017. And then reached 200 people last year, 2018. So the future at the moment looks bright, and we want to continue to grow the festival and help thousands more people learn about this lifestyle and bring more attention to the raw vegan fruitarian diet. And we're getting there slowly. In 2019, we're adding an extra 3 days to bring our festival to 8 days in total. But what exactly does this festival consist of? Well, there are 3 main important parts to our festival: the education, the food, and the activities. With the education, we bring you the best teachers in the raw vegan movement. Christina Kirillo-Bukhara, maybe the most well-known raw vegan influencer in the world, with over 2 million followers across her social media accounts online. Dr. Douglas Graham, author of the revolutionary book, The 80-10-10 Diet. You've all been listening to him just now. He's known as the father of the raw vegan movement. He's worked with Hollywood stars like Demi Moore, Martina Navratilova, most recently NBA basketball player Michael Porter Jr. Professor Rosalind Graham, often our attendees' favourite speaker, a professor of applied nutrition who's been a raw vegan for over half of her life. Anne Osborne, the world's most famous fruitarian, actually is not going to be at the event this year. She had to cancel. So I should have taken that slide out. Ted Carr, the fruitarian master motivator, nearly 10 years on a fruit-based raw vegan diet, founder of the Canada Fruit Fest, competed as a triathlete on a fruitarian diet. Chris Kendall, who was speaking earlier on, registered holistic nutritionist, professional raw vegan coach, author of some of the best recipe books in the raw vegan movement. Melissa Raimondi from Raw Food Romance, the creator of the fantastic YouTube channel Raw Food Romance, lost over 70 pounds on a raw vegan diet and has some fantastic books. We have Grant Campbell, ultramarathon runner, raw Aussie athlete, runs the Thailand Adventure Retreat each year, and Harriet Kerr has been on a raw vegan diet for over 8 years. So what will you learn? The aim is that you will leave the UK Fruit Fest with all of the information you need to go raw and have the healthiest year of your life. We've created a unique program over 8 days to take you by the hand and walk you step by step through everything you need to succeed on a raw vegan diet, the inspiration, the motivation, the knowledge, the wisdom. And we have created this program, the Journey to Raw Vegan Mastery. Day one is getting to know you day, an arrival day, just a chance to have fun, get to know each other. Day two is the beginner's day, where we go into the information suited for beginners about a healthy lifestyle. Day three, we talk about focusing on a raw vegan diet. And in day four, we go into that diet in more detail. In day five, we're going to talk about the challenges of a healthy lifestyle and the challenges of a raw vegan diet. On day six, the lectures will be around personal development and inspiration. And day seven is a special new day called Raw Leadership, where the teachers, the presenters will be talking about leadership in the raw vegan community, whether that's building a following online on social media, whether that's writing a book, becoming a speaker, putting on an event, whatever it is you want to do. And day 8 will be reflecting over everything we've learned. The food is 100% raw vegan. 3 meals a day are provided, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, created by the best professional raw vegan chef in the world, Chef Alicia Ojeda. And for many years, she was the chief instructor at the Living Light Institute. She was also the head chef at the biggest raw vegan event in the world, serving over 600 people each day. For many, the incredible food was the highlight. And what we have is in-season fruits and vegetables picked specifically for flavor, served buffet style, available all day long. Healthy gourmet raw meals each night. And you have as much as you like. There's always an abundance, prepared with love by our fantastic team. For you that are struggling with doing this lifestyle, it's a chance to sit back and relax. Enjoy the delicious raw vegan food. You'll get to eat as much of it as you like. And you'll get a chance to try some fruits that you might have never tried as well. You'll also get some little treats, things like cinnamon rolls, little gourmet treats, raw vegan things. What about the activities? Well, apart from the lectures and apart from the food, each morning you'll get a choice of different fitness classes. Each afternoon you can choose a different workshop or discussion group. Each evening you can enjoy your entertainment. You can gaze at the stars at our campfire to end the day. Morning activities include yoga with Chris Kendall, meditation with Ted Carr, morning run with Grant Campbell, morning dance exercise with Roger King, fitness classes with Dr. Doug Graham. And afternoon workshops will include more hands-on workshops, discussion groups where we'll go deeper into discussing aspects of healthy living. And we'll talk also about things like food addiction, raw vegan parenting, law of attraction, breath work, self-love, a lot of different topics that people like to be learning about. In terms of children's activities, arts and crafts, nature, walk, games, children's dance session, children's music expression group and singing, lots of different things for children to do. And then in the evening, we have our campfire. We have men's and women's circles. We have open mic and talent night, comedy, music, dance for life, games night, lots of different entertainment each night. We'll also have food demos if you want to learn about making the food with Doug Graham, with Chris Kendall, with Chef Alicia. And what about the location of the accommodation? The location is in Tewkesbury, Gloucestershire. It's called Croft Farm Water Park. It's a picturesque campsite, holiday park, a lakeside activity centre. Accommodation options include chalets, cabins, or camping. Feel free to arrange your own accommodation, but we encourage you to stay on site for the community experience. The event takes place from the 21st, a Sunday, to the 28th, Sunday of July 2019. We have chalets, which are buildings with 4 beds. And if you buy 1 bed, then you'd be sharing a room with people, arranged as a row of 5 rooms side by side. Toilets and showers are in an adjacent building that is maintained and cleaned daily. There is 1 key provided, but you can get another with a small deposit. And rooms are either men only, women only. A family will have a whole room, or friends will have a whole room. Couples sharing or families sharing. We have different types of accommodation available. We even have luxury accommodation, camping, off-site. You can stay nearby. Extremely limited luxury option, and these things. So travel to get there from the UK is very easy. It's just right off the motorway. It's very near the train station, Ashchurch for Tewkesbury. So you just have to get a train there if you're coming by train. By plane, Birmingham, Heathrow, Ashchurch. Birmingham or Heathrow are the closest ones probably. Maybe Brighton as well. And from there you can get trains. We're probably going to have a bus from London. We'll see if we can work that all out. So why should you come to this festival? Because a lot of people say, what can the Fruit Festival offer that I can't get from books, articles, online videos, and all that kind of stuff? Well, it really is a unique experience. It's a complete immersion into a community of raw vegan health seekers. We provide accurate and high quality education not available anywhere else. And almost all of the long-term successful raw vegans learned almost all of what they know about this lifestyle at events. Meeting people face-to-face, getting to ask them questions personally makes a huge difference. The inspiration you get at an event is priceless. When you leave the festival, your highlight will be the people that you met, and you will leave with lifelong friends and connections, a new tribe that will stay in touch for years to come. You'll be inspired by the stories of other guests and how they changed their life, and you'll see the proof of this lifestyle working for other people. It's the best opportunity to experience the raw vegan lifestyle. If you're new to this and you're struggling, it's the easiest and best place to go and stay raw and experience it. And you'll learn more in 1 week than you will from years of watching videos, reading books, and asking questions on forums. My personal story is I struggled to stay raw until I went to a festival. I wasn't sure how people were succeeding long term. Were they eating something I wasn't? Were they really eating so much fruit? I was inspired to go raw at a festival. I personally transformed into a more confident person, and I've met hundreds of wonderful people and close friends at these fruit festivals. And some people say to me, I'm new to this, I'm not 100% raw, I'm not fit and slim and everything. Will I be accepted into this community? Well, you shouldn't really worry about this. Most of the people that attend the festival are coming for the first time. You won't be alone. They're starting off. And the Fruit Fest is like one big family. You can experience community and connection with people just like you and enjoy a supportive environment to help you transition to a healthier lifestyle. Other people will say, I'll come next year. But there's no guarantee that the festival will continue for another year. The lineup each year is unique. There's no guarantee the same speakers will return, and it's likely that we will increase prices in the future. So what have other people said about the festival? Well, Amanda said, I came by myself and I was a bit nervous about coming. And Ronnie had said it was like a big happy family, and I didn't believe him. I can't believe how open and loving and warm and accepting people are. What a great place and atmosphere. It's been brilliant. I loved it. Made so many friends and connections. It's just been superb. My body feels so clean. It feels so natural and right. I just want to carry on. And Alexandra said it's even better than I expected it to be. Definitely. I didn't really know what to expect. I'd never met another raw foodie, so I was really, really excited about meeting other like-minded people. And everyone here is so nice. I've learned so much this week. It's brilliant. It's definitely exceeded my expectations in every way. Karina said, I just love everything about it. The people are really, really great. The food, the amazing, the sports instruction, really helpful. All the speakers have been excellent. The information has been really, really good. And Michelle said, I was surprised at how friendly everybody here is. You don't normally get that instant communication and respect when you meet people in day-to-day life. I'd definitely come back in a second. It's been one of the best experiences. And Pamela and Michael said, this is our 25th wedding anniversary, and instead of going somewhere exotic, we've decided to come and celebrate at the Fruit Festival. It's been a life-changing experience. We came here with an open mind. We've absolutely loved it and can't wait to come back. We don't want to go home. Jane said it's exceeded all my expectations. I thought I'd arrive and it'd be all a bunch of hippies walking around with no shoes on. I've just met normal people that are like-minded, and it's been inspiring from the minute I got here. Matthew says, how have I found the festival? Brilliant, although it's gone really quickly. The time has flown. It's 5 days, but it feels like about 2, but absolutely brilliant. What do our speakers have to say? Well, Dr. Doug Graham said, having attended all of the Fruit Fests in the past, I know that this year's one will once again be a highlight of my year. Every year the Fruit Fest has improved. Every year, every aspect of the program has been tweaked to better serve the guests. Everybody's happy. We all have a good time. I'm going to be there this year because it's so much fun. This is an event you don't want to miss. And Rosalind said, I have to say this has been one of the most enjoyable festivals I've ever been to in all the years I've been doing this. The whole experience was just marvelous for me. I don't think I've ever been to an event where I felt quite so relaxed and just part of a big family, a big laid back, fun loving, open-minded, heart-centered family. I really, really enjoyed it. Most important question though for many is, what does it cost to go to UK Fruit Fest? And many years ago, I asked myself this question. Do I want to put on an event that is free to come to or is a very low cost, but we're not really able to do much with it? Or do we want to charge more and we're able to provide accommodation, provide food, have a chef there that makes the food, be able to have a nice location and venue, have a stage, have a speaker system, have the best teachers come and speak and all sorts of things. And I've done both types of event, but for Fruit Fest, I chose the second option. So it's not a free event. And it's not the cheapest festival out there, but we provide a lifetime of value in return for the modest ticket price. What does that ticket include? It includes your accommodation, bed and bedding for the entire event. It includes all of the food you will eat at the event, unlimited fruits, vegetables, gourmet evening meals and samples at food demos, full access to all morning fitness activities, full access to all lectures and workshops, access to meet and speak to our speakers, entry into our private WhatsApp group, and all talks and lectures will be recorded. You'll be able to look back on them, but that's not all. You'll also get 6 books from all of our presenters. The Fully Raw 21 Challenge book, 15 Ways to Enjoy Bananas by Dr. Doug Graham. I always kind of laugh when I see that title. 52 to a New You, 2-minute salad dressings, Inspired to Run, Fruitarianism, The Path to Paradise. And I recently sought advice on what to charge for this event with everything we're offering. I spoke to an experienced businessman friend of mine. I showed him what we offer at the festival and all of our expenses. And I asked him to honestly evaluate what he would charge if he was putting on the event. And he said that he would charge roughly £2,850 per person for 8 days, £1,750 per person for 5 days, and £350 per person per day. The value you're offering is far more. He said the value we're offering is more than other events. And a quick search into the industry will show you thousands of people paying much more to go to events that are offering much less. And he was right. And I started to research and I looked at different things and I found different, after doing this research, I found there was all these raw food weeks and institutes and detox weeks and cleanses and whatever that were offering a lot less than us. We were charging a lot more. And the education wasn't anywhere near the same level. And yet they seemed to be doing quite well. So I realized we were offering more than these other events and our education was better, our attendees had a better experience. And I agreed with my friend that we could easily justify charging more. And in the future, it's likely we will have to put up our prices quite considerably. But for now, for this year, you'll get a chance to sign up at our incredibly affordable rates and have an experience that's not offered by other events and retreats for a fraction of the price. And you get a chance to take advantage of our intentions to create an event that is still affordable for all. So what's offered at Fruit Fest? Your full accommodation and bedding is provided, 100% raw vegan meals 3 times a day, prepared by the top raw vegan chef in the world. An 8-day program taught to you by the best raw vegan educators in the world. Fitness activities each day, provided by world-class trainers. Access to meet and speak to all of our speakers and guests, entertainment each night, and a free ebook from each presenter. So what might you expect to pay having seen all of that is added? You might think £5,000. You might think £3,500. You might think £2,500. Well, the reality is you wouldn't even be close. But which do you think it is? £2,000, £1,800, £1,600, £1,400? What would you guess is the price of the festival? Well, the reality is you'd be wrong if you thought it was in that ballpark as well. So for our starting price, you won't pay £1,300 or £1,200 or £1,100 or £1,000 or even £900. You won't pay close to that. Our starting price for our starting 5-day camping ticket is £575. However, that price is going up tonight by £300. And that's the same for our offsite. No, yeah, our camping offsite ticket. Our 8-day ticket is going up once again. Is £795 right now, and is going up by £300 tonight. We've got chalet rooms, we've got cabin rooms, we've got cheaper prices for children. And still a lot of people will say to me that they feel that it is very expensive, and I know how you feel. I felt the exact same way when I came across, you know, the various festivals I was looking at a number of years ago. But I made that decision to go. And what I found was that the experience I had, the knowledge I gained, the friendships I made were truly priceless to me. And I always felt like I got more out of it than I'd paid for. And when I looked at the value of it rather than the cost and the lifetime value, because I really felt like I got something out of it that would benefit me for life. The friendships, the partners, the relationships, the knowledge, the memories were just priceless to me. And when compared to other holidays, it's really not much different in price. And a lot of people will go away traveling this year and spend more on their plane ticket than they will on coming to the festival. And yet they're thinking they're going to go away traveling and find this kind of wonderful fruitarian paradise. But you'll find more of a paradise at the Fruit Festival than you ever will in some tropical country. We're less than half the price of many events, but something special for tonight. You can use my code Ronster and you get 10%. You get 10% off. That's RONSTER. And I'm not sure. Well, you can even use that code if you like. That gets you 20% off. But that's probably. That maybe finished that code. You can try it out if you like. What if you can't make it? Well, you are protected with a 100% refund policy. If you can't make it for any reason, you will get a refund. There's no other event that offers such a generous offer. These are pictures of the event, I think, that aren't there. I guess that's just pictures, and that's the presentation. So if you've got any questions about it, that's the end of the presentation. So thank you very much for watching. Let's stop the share. I don't know if anyone's left watching. We've got a few people watching. I read on site there are some remaining beds. What are those prices? The prices start from for the beds from £665 for 5 days to £895 for 8 days. That's where the prices start from. I'll give you the link. I'm not sure why people can't see the prices on the website. The prices are all on the website. They're also not sure why people are unable to see it. And yeah, just to remind you that if you are going to sign up, prices go up by £300 tonight. You do have a full refund. You're covered for your refund if you can't make it. You don't even need to pay insurance or anything. You're covered. So thank you much for watching. Thank you very much for watching. Is there any last questions? Is there anything anyone wants to ask or add? Scylla Pelez, thank you for watching tonight. Thank you, Johanna, Marie Falk. Who else is here? Melissa, are you still here? Or you just left your computer on? Michaela Krechke, thank you for joining us. Seb P, thank you for your support. Thank you for watching. All the people on YouTube, are you there? Let's have a look. Optimal Health. Ronnie, turn on a light so we can see you. There's 4 people watching on YouTube. Thank you for watching on YouTube. Well, I hope you got something out of this tonight. I'm going to bring this to an end if there's no further questions. I don't think there are. I hope we got most of our questions answered for you. and we will see you at the festival. And stay in touch. Hope you can stay in touch with our different channels and things, and the information that we're putting out. Thank you for following what we're doing. Any last remaining questions? Can you do this with your eyebrows? I can't do this with my eyebrows. Thank you very much, everyone. It's been a long day for me, but I'm glad to be putting out some good information about health. And this really comes down to trying to get this message out to more people. There's too many people in this world that are sick and in pain for no reason, apart from bad advice they were given from a young age to eat this terrible diet that everyone else is eating that causes disease and problems. It completely limits people's potential, their capacity, takes away often their vitality, takes away their life much earlier than it should. And I guess a lot of us have a weird kind of compassion that maybe we should try and help people get away from that. And then we want to change to a better world. And we really believe from our experience of these festivals that the world would be a better place if everyone was eating better. So that's the idea. I'm thrilled that you've joined us tonight. Hope to see somebody at the festival. Feel free to share the information with other people. And we'll see you in another webinar another time. Thank you very much.